custodians of the land and waters, the Nurrungeri people, whose ancestral lands are on which we meet today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal people to country and pay our respects to elders past and present. We also extend that respect to all First Nations people. Thank you. Welcome, councillors. Sorry, I'm a fraction late. Item 1's apologies. We have nil. Item 2, acknowledgements. Just 2 I have. We just recently farewelled at Audit and Risk Committee independent presiding member Michelle Bennetts last week, I think from memory. She served 4.5 years with our council and chaired her final meeting, yes, on the 12th of November. So we wished her well and gave her a small gift at that meeting. And I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of a former District Councillor of Peak, Councillor Malcolm Piggott, who passed away a few weeks ago. Staunch supporter and community leader in Peak and Tailem Bend, leading and contributing to many of the town's beautification projects. It would be fair to say that most of the stone walls, particularly in Tailem Bend, were Malcolm's, particularly Malcolm's lead. He was the lead on all that work. So sad to hear Malcolm's passing. Councillors, there is a late item. I presume you all have received it last night in relation to HSVPP Karkuma Road. I'm not getting any no's, so that's it. Councillors, at number 3, declarations of conflict of interest. Has anyone got anything to declare?
Yeah, can we,
Yeah.
So, Smira.
Yes, Councillor Peach.
I do. Smira, just trying to find the right agenda item. To do with the community grants, I'll be leaving the room.
Or one or two of them?
They're being dealt with individually for that entire.
I think they are actually dealt with individually, Councillor. Yep.
So I'll be leaving for 2 of them, being the Tintara Golf Club and the Keith Shooting Club.
Certainly. Councillors, I've just been reminded, can we just go back and receive the late item, please? I'll move that way, please. Councillors Bland and O'Hara. Any debate? All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. I move to item 4, which is confirmation of the minutes of the special meeting we held last Thursday. So I'll move that way, please. Councillors. Baum, thank you, Councillor, and Peach. Any discussion around them? There is none. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Item 5, adjourned business. I have nil. Item 6, 6.1, Mayor's report. Oh. Councillors, I'll start with questions perhaps out of the Mayor's report. Might be the easier way of doing it. Councillor Roundtree.
I have 3. The 2nd of October, you're meeting with Senator Anne Ruston and the Shadow Minister for Health and Welfare.
Great meeting. Quite honest, there was no particular subject. We went there as a group. There was a group of council.
So we didn't talk about anything to do with the
Well, we would have mentioned.
That's probably what I'm referring to. As can you elaborate at all on that? If anything was said or?
No, sorry. No, so I can't recall.
Okay.
The CEO would have been with me, but she's not here, so.
Yeah, these were going to be for her, but I've moved it to yours.
Yes, go on.
The other one was the 8th of October, the meeting with Nick McBride.
It's a general meet and greet. That was at Tintinara, I think, was it? And I think we would have had a photo opportunity out on side of Karkuma Road from memory.
That was really just a photo op.
No, and as our state member would, normally try and catch up with us every 4 or 6 months. See what's going on.
And is that an opportunity for you to discuss things like the health centre?
Yes, certainly. Talk about that perhaps in a little while.
And I guess the same then, this is all really focusing around the health centre, and if we're moving ahead there, so the 22nd of October when you met with Tony Payson, was there any further
Yeah, we would have discussed that again. That was more around, and you might have seen some photos of the Liberal Party has announced a package of money that try and help development. And I think we had a photo of, I remember, up the edge of Tailem Bend somewhere.
For mental health? Is that what you were saying?
No, about land development.
Oh, land development, sorry.
But we would have covered a broad range of subjects.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Peach and then Bland.
The meeting on the 4th of October with the State Minister for Primary Industries and Regional Development. Is there anything you can provide that was that constructive?
So, councillors, at this stage, I'm been asked to do I'm the interim LGA appointment to the State Drought Reference Committee of PIRSA. But prior to that, at that period of time, I was freelancing, you might say, around the drought. And we asked for a meeting with the Premier and the Minister, and we got a meeting with the Minister of Agriculture at Mount Gambier, which is a home turf, which we got half an hour with the Minister around, I suppose, where I saw the drought at stage. This stage, I believe the department's formulating some responses. I'm probably somewhat constrained now. I've been appointed onto this other committee. Yeah. Councillor Bland.
On the 8th, you had 14th with Senator Karen Grogan, link up via phone. What was the subject?
Senator Grogan taken an interest in our council and usually in environmental issues and health issues, and I would have mentioned this again to her every opportunity. Like, unfortunately, we just couldn't get together at her office in Adelaide, so I did have probably half an hour on the phone.
What were the key issues around the environment?
She always takes a strong interest in the health of the Coorong and therefore the Murray water buybacks and those sort of things, but also in health in general and mental health and social issues. Fair to say with Senator Grogan.
But no outcome.
No. She's a senator. No particular outcomes. I have found her to be the most responsive to having meetings and discussions with, and we've developed that relationship within the within the governing party of Australia at the moment. So, Councillor Maidman.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 25th of October, the Power of Her event. What was your take on that?
Wasn't many blokes there. Yes, no. It was about I suppose female empowerment through sport. I think it was a 5 or 6 hour event. There's a photo was being floated around where you might see that there's not many of us. No, I think it was extremely worthwhile, and we did have we had a brief meeting with the Minister for Sport afterwards. Fair to say. It'd also be fair to say that we as a sub-region, the Murraylands region, are probably pretty together around what direction we think the state could take in funding sporting facilities. But lovely event at the Racecourse Maybridge.
Thank you.
So can I have a follow-up question? In that, so the flow through Power of Her, or I'm going to use our district, there are opportunities for clubs
to work with, or is this just the one-off event? Where are they going?
So there was one the previous year in Adelaide, and this is the first regional one.
Right.
So this is, I think, I suppose it's talking to the Minister and building what might be available, what support might be available, for female sports, but perhaps for other sport in that zone. And everyone talks about what, say in the traditional sense, say female Australian rules football, for example, what facilities we might need in that scenario. It'd be fair to say the state's not going to have enough money to do that, but at least gives a level of understanding around that. There was no particular agenda or promise.
Yeah, I'm not making a promise. I'm just wondering how we in the rural sector, the wider rural sector, value from this, because, you know, some of us are a fair way from Murray Bridge or from Mount Barker or from Adelaide, and what happens further out. And I guess I'm just leading to the fact that, you know, we don't want to be the forgotten communities in
Yep.
these sorts of events.
So we would have emphasised the issue of you know, in our district, we've got only a couple sporting clubs, but many grounds to maintain. It's the opposite to the peri-urban and regional cities, which have not got enough sporting clubs or grounds. It's a bit of a challenge for government, if you think. So how do we support our facilities with perhaps strong clubs, dare I say premiership clubs this year again, vis-a-vis clubs where there's not enough sport, or we know particularly it's in the press, Mount Barker, the new Mount Barker Oval is too expensive for clubs to be at. So if I was to take away from that I think we as a council do a fairly reasonable job of supporting our clubs' facilities at this stage, but that doesn't change that issues of multiple gender toilets, for example, or change rooms aren't on the agenda.
Okay. I just don't want to be all the forgotten people still.
No, right, but as you'd note this year, the sporting grant for, if there was a divvy up across this region, went to one club. That's just the way it worked out this year, but yeah.
Thank you.
It's a bit of a hard debate because at what level do we provide facilities for which sports out here, I think.
Thank you.
Councillor Qualman.
Mr Mayor, 22nd October, Coorong Investment Prospectus lunch. I unfortunately couldn't attend. What did you think of it? Thank you.
I thought it was really well. Thank Miles and his team and everyone in this business that led it, to be quite honest. And we've had very good feedback from, I'd say, industry leaders, both the bigger companies that are invested in this district, but also, you know, what I call large family businesses in this area as well around it. And I think it made its mark. I'm looking at Miles. I think it made its mark on the day, and that was the important part. My interpretation of what happened.
And I'd say there's 3 other dates there, the 4th, the 16th and the 31st, about the dry seasonal conditions, no doubt. That'll be used when we have discussing item 10 further in the agenda, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, so just on the drought, those I've basically gone out and used the power of our position here to try and make everyone understand it's a drought. That's generally been well received by the agricultural community. Whether we've as well received by the powers that be, I don't know. But out of that, I've been, like I said, appointed to that LGA committee as LGA's rep, which at this stage is an interim position. I've also, we could comment right now about the drought that we've councils auspiced and helped discreetly some hay run barbecues, and I think you and Councillor Arthur as Deputy Mayor went there on them.
Yep.
I just finished dealing with another group only 10 minutes ago around that. And I suppose we'll have that discussion later in the agenda. So I think I've done what I can do in terms of being a public face of the drought. Whether state and federal government wish to support farming, it'll be a different debate, I believe.
That's right.
Still in questions on my report. Okay, I just might point out the Yamali Muster Old Style Dance. Obviously forgot my military too and Queen's Waltz. Canalpin Show, another very successful day. I'm very pleased to finally win the cake making competition, councillors. Finally. The decorations were illegal. First of, and this was organised by some farmers at Up the Shed at Mallee at Peak Jaybuck, around people getting together around the drought, and get to that perhaps later in the agenda. But that couple organised that relatively themselves around that. African Lovegrass councillors, there is a program. I went there as a landowner actually, but there is a program around the lovegrass on your property. I think it's held by both the landscape boards. I think are dealing with this, to be quite honest. So I'd encourage people to speak to their landscape board if they have got it on their property and identify where it is on road reserves, but particularly railway reserves, to be quite honest. The Libraries Board visited Tintinara briefly, the first of, I think it's about 3 that day they visited, Councillor Arthur, is that right? There was a nice little visit there on their thing. On the 26th, the Motorsport Park, the Ben Classic. I think it'd be fair to say now that the Motorsport Park's getting its head of steam up and getting very confident in how it runs, functions and multiple functions on the same day, on the same site. And it only brings attention to our area. That's about all. No other questions, thank you. Move to Councillor Arthur's report. Councillor Arthur, you wish to say anything?
The only thing I'll probably say is landscape board, both regions. We are split between the regions, have now got a plan on African lovegrass. They're actually, they've got dollars to help landowners to, which is good, and I think even we as a council can put into the landscape board, get some financial assistance with lovegrass, particularly on the roadside. It's a bit of a bugbear whose problem it is. It's been, when I met with the board some 2 years ago, I said, you know, like somewhere along the line, it's got to be a marriage of the landowners, the council and the landscape board. And finally, that's about nearly what's happened. They haven't put the council into it yet, but it's a big start. And I think it's $500,000. So it's not peanuts.
More than that.
Yeah,
The
first lot, yeah. That may be per board too, I don't know.
Yeah. There's that, yeah, maybe. I mean, there's that and one other weed, I believe, are in the category thereafter in this special funding package. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Anything else? Any questions? Councillor Peach.
The LGA Roads and Works Conference in Harndorf, is there any takeaways from that?
well, I'll probably answer that for you in a minute. As you know, when you go to these conferences, you get the opportunity to write back and tell them what you think of what they did. And as far as I'm concerned, the LGA is a very good Roads Conference is probably the best conference I have, because you actually can get to Mick, and I think Mick's been to one at Port Lincoln. You get to meet people from different areas and how they do different jobs. As you know, mine's a little bit at the present moment is unsealed roads. So I've spent most of my time with fellows from Eyre Peninsula, York Peninsula, all over the place, how they look at their roads. So you get that opportunity. But in my answer to the LGA about how it is, it's about time that they put a little bit of emphasis on country councils. Nearly all of it is city council or big council like Mangambia or something like that. It's very little that's relevant to the smaller country councils. And in fact, I go back probably 6 years ago with the presentation was from, I think it was Charles Sturt, about maintenance of unsealed roads. You know, they had a grader and a crew and they had 60 Ks of roads. And that's the sort of thing that they were presenting to, you know, councils in the state have got probably 1,500 to 2,000 Ks of unsealed roads and how you do it. So, yeah, but it is a very, probably the AI left Breton and I not knowing where we were, but I must say we were sitting with some fellows from Eyre Peninsula. We weren't the only mob that didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. Councillors, to sort of build on Councillor Arthur's response, we have given some consideration, and the executive has, around your point around rural roads. whether we should offer to host the
Mm.
conference. Probably just seeing what the mood of the room is, since I just dropped that on you.
Out the bend, Mr Mayor.
But well, it could well be at the Bend. We could retrieve some of those bollards that got damaged by the CEOs at one of their recent conferences. Is that sort of out of order to give up consideration? Would you like a report? What would you like?
I think it's a good idea.
It's a good idea.
Well, there was a quick mention by the CEO. When
Now we
I
have a
mentioned
venue,
that
we never
I
had a
put the
venue.
report in that maybe we could, being the presenting, depends on where it's held, of course, because it's pretty restricted because of the accommodation side. I think they held at Mount Gambier, Renmark, Port Lincoln, and they did it Murray Bridge just recently. So depends on
Yeah.
where it is, but
We
yeah.
do have the bend, so that would work.
Yeah, so perhaps we look at that. Yep. Okay, anything else, councillor?
That's all. Okay.
No other questions, is there? Okay. Move to item
Oh,
7.
sorry, Mr. There's just one, we met with the South Australian Libraries Board at Tintinara
Yep.
just recently, and as you know, it's been an ongoing thing about how libraries are actually being work funded, because we still haven't got a signed agreement between the Education Department and the South Australian Libraries Board. I asked the chairman of the board what the likelihood of getting that signed after probably 14 years of it being not ratified. And he assured me that's in for 2025. So that would be good, because then we'll know what happens with how the libraries are being run. But let's cross our fingers that they could finally get those two departments to come to an agreement.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of work going on in that area at the
Yeah.
moment. I'll just add, just one of the things that came out of the visit to the Tintinara Library, and it's worth considering and making sure at Menengi with upcoming, is the lack of a toilet near the library building, public, the children, for the public. That was brought up, wasn't it? So I just think we need to start giving that a broad consideration in the future. I know it's difficult because it's Education Department property, but was worthy of mentioning.
Wait for the signed agreement before we jump in.
Absolutely.
But it is an issue, and it'll be bigger and better than Ben Hur, that toilet, wherever we do it now.
So,
To
all right.
include disability.
No other questions to the councillor Arthur? I move on. There's no other councillors wish to report anything. Number 7, petitions, I have nil. Number 8, deputations, I have nil. Number 9, public question time. We have had a question submitted. Lynette, could you come up, please, to this mic over here? And lady has put her question to us in writing, but I'll let her put her question just to us. Councillors, she would like to present us, each of you, a document. Stage, we're going to just not quite do that until we have a quick look to make sure that it's hasn't got any particular issues. But Lynette, welcome.
Thank you.
And just ask your question, and the councillors are entitled to ask you a question each.
Good morning, everybody. My question for the Mayor to consider for today's meeting: would the Coorong Council provide an information package to prospective purchasers and follow up the effects of eviction in the Coorong Council area? Thank you.
Sorry, could I hear that question
didn't
again,
hear that.
please?
Sorry, I've got
That's all right.
Okay. Would the Coorong Council provide an information package to prospective purchasers and follow up the effects of eviction in the Coorong Council area?
Eviction, councillors.
So an information package to prospective purchasers on eviction?
No,
Yeah, you go a little bit, yeah.
I was a real estate agent for a long time. Real estate agents will say whatever they feel like they want to say, and you rely on your conveyancer to do their inquiries. When I was trying to research the council documentation, there was 29 pages And I only just lucked upon knowing that I had to request the mayor to listen to the question, and it had to be viewed and approved as a appropriate question. So I'm thinking it would be nice, because this is a wonderful area. People that want to buy into the area, that part of it, purchase process, could be an information pack. Shows you where things are, like your dog park and all the other wonderful amenities you've got.
Hands, councillor Bland.
I guess I'm dividing that into 2 points, and tell me if I'm wrong, in that one is about an information pack, which I think all our communities should have, same sort of, and I think we're talking, some of the smaller communities have, some of us don't, but not an overall one. The other part in relation to the effects of eviction, can you expand on that?
I was evicted. I'm not 100% sure because my memory is a little cloudy at the moment. I think it's maybe old age. But there is a number of other people facing eviction. When I originally came here to look at the area, I came as a homeless person from a fire that burnt the property I was renting in Adelaide. I couldn't find out much about the area. I knew nobody here. I had no network here. I just landed here. So I knew nothing about the area. So as an ex-real estate agent, I drove around the area. What I observed was caravans and shacks and this and that. So I presumed that's what I could do. I could stay for a while until I got myself together. And that wasn't the case. So I got sick as well. So I made a mistake. It was my fault. Should have probably done more research, but
So my follow-up question, if that's okay, is that the land that you're referring to in relation to eviction is council's public land or
Yep.
parks, or land and parks?
I paid a mortgage there. I don't have a mortgage. I was paid insurance just over $100,000. I used that money to purchase that property outright, thinking I've got a home and I'm safe now and I can start working from there. But I didn't know the area. I didn't know the climate conditions of Wellington and your wind. I knew it was off grid, but it's a lot to learn in a short period of time, and it didn't do me any favours. The minute I knew that I was only supposed to visit the land occasionally, I wasn't supposed to live there, I moved back in my car and I started travelling around in the car. If I'm allowed to continue, is that okay?
Carefully.
Or I'll be very careful.
No,
There's-
just,
I've probably
There's
got enough
there's
from my,
basically
I've probably got enough from my question.
Well, there's two lots of homeless people. There's those that are like somebody that's lived in prison forever and they're quite happy to do that. And then there's another lot that find themselves, and any one of us could be 2 seconds away from being homeless. It's very quick. That's all I want to say.
any other questions, councillors?
So
Councillor
just to confirm,
Roundtree.
you owned a piece of land,
Yep.
you bought a piece of land and you had a caravan or a dwelling on that land and you were told you couldn't live in that dwelling.
It wasn't livable anyway. It had a plastic roof. It had metal windows and plastic windows, and I was doing it up, I think.
Councillors, we're going to step really carefully here
Yeah.
because it is subject to some other processes. So just,
So
I think Lynette's question is around, is there, I thank her for that question. Is there a
Policy.
welcoming pack or an information pack around our area? I think that's what you're broadly
It
saying.
would make life a lot easier, I think.
And I don't know, we have. So, Miles, please, around that question.
No,
If I might, the property is cleared and it's listed for sale now.
Yep.
we have talked about having a general council information package for new residents, and it wouldn't just be people who are buying, it'll be new renters and the like, so I think that's something that we could readily pursue. I think that's a good thing. We have a certain amount of information on our website, but it's nice to be able to have a package that says, welcome to the district. And we can have other information there as well that isn't on our website, like other groups like the community centre. I think that's a good idea. There is another issue in terms of prospective purchases and what they can and can't do on their properties. We are in a housing crisis, there's no doubt. Every council at the moment is dealing with the challenges of understanding there is a housing crisis, dealing with homelessness, but also at the same time dealing with the law, the building code, the planning regulations. Both of those, the planning and the building code, state and federal government pieces of law, and we carry those out on behalf of high levels of government. At the moment, and we all know that from state to state is different, and there is still some greyness in the rules around what the temporary accommodation on blocks, and it will be different from zone to zone. So to be able to provide something definitive from a council isn't really the right way to go about it, because from council to council, the zonings will be different. And really, you've got to look towards the state government, and the state government are now preparing a pamphlet, which is the planning department, and it is a guideline to temporary accommodation. So it is the caravans on blocks, it is homes on wheels, tiny homes on wheels, it's living in sheds. It provides largely the planning advice. I'm part of an assessment managers group that is reviewing that at the moment. Our immediate concerns is this has to be comprehensive because it has to take in the building code as well. And that's really where you fall down, because the building code defines what a dwelling is. So I expect that information to be available in the new year. Very important. Every council has this challenge. That information, I'd be looking to disseminate that through, actually I'd have to disseminate it through real estate agents, because the real estate agents are the people who have the conversations with prospective purchasers. We have a Section 7 process. There's a legal process that when a property is put on the market, there's a search, Section 7 search, and it comes to council. Now we're only able to provide the information that form requires of us. We have been informed through lawyers not to provide anything in addition, because what will happen is that you'll have a dispute down the track that you didn't provide something. So you stick to the letter of the law that says we will provide the information in the Section 7 search. And the Section 7 search will cover things such as, is there a council encumbrance on the property? Is there a notice on the property? That type of thing. So quite happy when that pamphlet, which will be able to be statewide advice for anyone in South Australia, when that's available through Planning SA, to ensure every real estate agent in a district has those and is encouraged to disseminate that. The other thing that happens on a regular basis is we get people call us before they're ready to sign a contract on a property. They call us on a regular basis and say, can I do X? Living in sheds, etc., whilst I build a house, and we make it clear what the rules are so that they can make an informed choice if they go ahead and sign the contract.
So
Councillor Roundtree, yeah.
what the state government is doing at the moment with regards to planning, how quickly, I mean, we've got the housing crisis on us now. How long does this process take to give some wriggle room to people that are homeless and need somewhere to live, just so that they don't have to live in their cars? Because I can imagine that's against some planning law as well, but people need to put a roof over their heads.
Everything related to housing crisis is fast track at the moment. Fast. this pamphlet would normally probably take, 12 to 18 months to produce. And it needs to be signed off by the department. So effectively the minister has to, feel comfortable with the content. I would be confident that early in the new year, we'll have that information available.
Do we have an idea through you, Mr Mayor, how many homeless we have in our district?
Through the chair, we wouldn't have that data. A lot of homelessness is hidden. So the true number of homelessness includes people who are couch surfing, all sorts of things. It's hidden. So I wouldn't even begin to guess at a figure like that. The other thing about this, and we've had the conversation in the chamber about how we manage these situations, is that we don't go out looking for issues. We act on complaint. We have to act on complaint. If we, not that we ever would, but if we chose not to act on a complaint, it's likely that we'd be having to respond to a minister or the ombudsman. We, however, in responding to complaints, we're compassionate. And we try as hard as we can to understand both parties and to find the most reasonable. It gets to the point where you just have to apply the law. And in doing that, we try as hard as we can to be able to find a compromise without, we don't want to go to court with these types of matters, but we're seeing in other councils, that's what's happening. It is a very, very difficult situation for a council to be in and for the officers involved.
Any more questions to Lynette? Now, you got any sort of final thing you'd like to say?
I understand I have to be careful about what I say. I am aware of one complaint. It's because of an Airbnb, and the gentleman was concerned that it was affecting his bottom line because the way I was forced to, because I didn't have the money to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, no, so councillors, it's probably the most vexing thing I've dealt with in the last 2 years, and I'm sure this is not the only case. And it's very stressful for everyone. I very much thank you, Lynette, for coming in and prepared to put your question to us. We'll make we'll give some consideration to whether we can distribute your pack, but let's hope things come good for you somehow. Empathy and compassion are hard words when we're also the authority that has to apply the law at some point. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for
Thank
telling
you.
your story.
It's the only question I had, Ashley, isn't it? You say yes, did you? You're fighting there. Number 10.1, appointment of deputy mayor councillors. There's probably two questions you need to decide. One is for the period of 1 or 2 years has been what the options I think are for you. Yes.
Can I amend that first point?
You don't amend it, no one's moved it yet.
Oh, okay, well, I'd like to, what would I
And
do?
the second part is for the ballot process. So first point.
First point. So I just would like to see, rather than for X number of years, I think it's actually useful to make it for the rest of the term going forward, because rather than do this every year, I think once you settle into a position, it should be for the balance of our remaining term. And if that's 2 years, or if the state government change the cycle and it ends up being 3 years, I'd like to see that position. So that first part be changed to reflect that the remainder of this current council term.
Current term of council.
Yeah, current term of
We can
council.
word that right, Ash, can we? Like for everyone's benefit, the rumour is that the state government or the electoral commissioner is considering, Councillor O'Hara is not looking forward to this at all, considering extending the term of this council, which is normally 4 years, to get us further away from the state election date, which is now fixed. That's basically the commentary we are hearing. Yeah. And I can't remember when, councillors, but in my time in this council thing, we were extended one term. Was. So what councillor Roundtree is saying is that this stage that she would like that to be for the balance of this term of council.
Yes.
Okay with that.
I'm sure you, Mr Mayor, I would second that motion, but still think it would be highly illegal for them to change it. Every one of us came in on the presumption of a 4-year term, and for them to change it would be completely wrong, in my opinion.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but that's this rumour that's out there. Rumour that's out there. We probably may learn more Thursday, Friday, potentially at the LGA AGM. The second part is the ballot process, councillors. If we went with the recommendation on block, councillor Roundtree, since you're the mover, are you happy with that point 2?
Yes, yes. I think that's how we've done it in the past, haven't we?
Think so? Yep. So for balance, I'm not sorry, I'm going to write it here. Term, you're the mover. You're a seconder. Councillor O'Hara, thank you. Thank you, Lynette. Right, debate. Debate, any of that, Councillor Qualm? Well, no, I haven't let Councillor Roundtree speak to her motion yet, so we'll just let her. I was just reading up there that I was going to nominate somebody. No, one thing at a time. Okay, well, I've got to say on my. I thought you'd moved on. Councillor Qualman, sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a comment that with point 1, I see it a little bit different. And it says for the Coorong Council for a period of whatever, years.
Up to 3.
I would have thought, you know, if you went 1 year, it gives a choice or an opportunity for someone else, like you have someone new into the position for this year, it gives someone else the opportunity again for the next year. That was just my little bit of input.
My broad question
my
is, do you want to
view.
move an amendment to that effect?
No, I don't, but I'm just saying that. Thank you.
Right. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? You'll close. So the motion, councillors, you can see it as that little difference from the recommendation for the remainder of this term, current term of council, the exhaustive ballot process. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. So, councillors, Mayor says it's calls here for nominations of Deputy Mayor. Now, we do not need seconders, do we? No. I'm open for nominations. Councillor Roundtree. Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor Peach. I'm going to go on and ask for all the nominations first. Anyone else wish to nominate? You can nominate yourself. Is that right, Ashley?
Yep. I wish to nominate myself. There.
All right. Councillor Arthur nominates Councillor Arthur. Who else would like nominations? Don't rush me. There's no further nominations. Councillor Peach, are you prepared to stand?
I am thinking, Mr Mayor.
And Councillor Arthur, are you prepared to stand? Righto. We're invited to vote. Just so everyone knows that the presiding member does have to vote in this scenario. Very few times I have to vote. Yep, we confirmed that 2 years ago. It's quite interesting. I'm an elected member for the purpose of this ballot.
There you go.
So I will leave it in the hands of the acting chief executive officer and executive officer to do the process.
Bit of a catch, isn't it?
Let's put the name of the person. Fine.
Well, if it's a draw, it goes back.
Yeah.
We just do we want to vote.
Yeah.
Round 1. Uh-oh.
It's a round one.
No, that's right. You have a draw, don't you? They put it out and do it.
Oh.
Draws out, loses. Yeah, cool.
So the process will be that you write the name of the person you want to be the deputy mayor on the paper.
Hope so, that's all we can.
That was our process.
Bit late.
Well, it's all right.
Well, it's not late for me, I can tell you, I haven't done it yet.
Mayor, have a quick bathroom break while they're collating that.
You can go whenever you like. I'm probably not going to stop the meeting. You just go, and I'll sit here and ponder like a little while. Councillors, probably talk about this in the meantime. You were from the results from the special meeting last Thursday. We submitted all our council minutes in relation to the election of SAROC representatives. The board of the LGA met yesterday to discuss the outcome of that. The council minutes were all confirmed and presented to the board as best I understand. And out of that, there appears that a council submitted a different result on the ballot paper to the minute,
Oh, wow. 8.
Interesting.
which meant, as far as I've been told verbally so far, that Mayor Phillips of Karoonda got 7 votes, Mayor Simone Bailey got 5 votes, and I got 4 votes. So the board has decided to undeclare me elected and declare Councillor Simone Bailey elected to the SAROC board. There is no bad blood at all around this. In fact, that just shows that any process sometimes doesn't quite work. I'm assured that the deputy mayor got us right, our vote, but obviously one did, and there's no way of knowing did not. So that explains where that little, not dispute, but something didn't happen. So,
Mr. Mayor, isn't that sort of a corruption of the system? Because the staff, the council are at the direction of the elected members to make the decision, and that decision should have been what was forwarded, not unless it was a mistake, but it seems like a funny mistake to me.
wouldn't say it was funny.
Well, you know, like it, yeah.
Well, yes, it does lead to other outcomes if someone was to believe that they knowingly did it.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting because the order of ballot would have made it quite difficult. Anyway, I just thought I'd better tell you that just while we're in voting process. So the point of the matter is I'm no longer on the SAROC committee of the board, and see what happens on perhaps the AGM this weekend, whether I was appointed by the board or the SAROC committee to be the drought representative on the advisory group.
And you can't go to the meetings, or you can still go to the meetings?
I'm grateful I can't go.
I know, I was gonna say, you're probably not upset about that at all, but
Do I look
if you
upset?
wanted to, could you go?
No, SAROC is a committee of the board. So,
Okay.
so anyway, I thank everyone for their forbearance in this process. But at the end of the day, I was offered, thank council for its response, and I presented personally to the board, and so did Councillor Mayor Bailey, and Councillor Phillips, because she is on the board, did not. Councillors, congratulate Councillor Peach on being elected for the balance of this term as Deputy Mayor. I, at this point, would very much thank Councillor Arthur. It's 6 years, I think, Tank, isn't it? We've been leading, I suppose, this council, and I could say a couple of things. You've always been available. You've always been forthright. I've been thinking of the right word. Forthright of your views. but particularly showing interest in such things as Limestone Coast. You've always gone, just about always gone down there. Limestone Coast LGA, as we have a watching brief on that. But my other favourite is the Box Flat Dingo Control or Dog Control Committee. You've always, but I thank you very much for all of that. But congratulations, Councillor Peach. Okay. You want to say some words? Yes,
Well,
sir.
yeah, well, the council will now take over tomorrow and represent the mayor at the show
Well,
at Muddy Pool
No, not necessarily.
at 9:45 tomorrow.
Which show's that one, Councillor?
The MDA, whatever it is.
The RDA Summit. Oh, you
The
got
RDA
bad
thing,
news
yeah.
for you, Councillor. You might be. Just on that, councillors, Councillor Arthur is nominated by name for Friday, so you're still there Friday.
Yeah.
Can't escape that one. No.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. But the RDA Summit, yes, that's right, tomorrow, because I'm running out of days. Thank you, everyone.
Mr Mayor, if I could just say a word or two. I've probably been around as long as most here, and I'd also like to thank Councillor Arthur for his support. We haven't always agreed, but that's okay. Surprise, surprise. And change is inevitable no matter what we do in life, and I look forward to working with Councillor Peach as well. We've got a broad district, good learning curve when you're the Deputy Mayor, but it is a learning curve, and I think it is a position, having said that, I think it is a position that needs over time to change and allow other councillors who are looking, you never know, for your position at some point in time, to actually build the rapport across the district as well. So I look forward to working with that. And my only other point is that I know it's a pretty hefty job, and Councillor Arthur has stepped up for that, but also that in the past, other councillors have had to fill in when things perhaps didn't necessarily always pan out time-wise for the Deputy Mayor or the Mayor, subject to that. So, and that is legal. So it is a possibility that somebody else may step up and give some assistance if necessary. Thank you. That's all I need to say.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm always grateful for people that can fill in. Given our geography, it's almost impossible for myself or the Deputy to do everything. That's just the reality of it. So I think we work pretty well in terms of presenting to the community in that respect, but yeah. Okay. You might be right. I might pass out any moment, Councillor. Number 2, audited financial statements. Councillors' decision report for the year ending 30th of June. There is a recommendation. Councillor Rountree, are you moving that way?
I am, yes.
There is a seconder. Councillor Bland. Right, Councillor Rountree, do you want to discuss anything in it?
Not particularly. I think we've had a good look at this through the Finance Committee, and Audit and Risk have had a look at it as well. I'm comfortable where we see it at the moment.
Councillor Bland,
No, I'm okay with it as well. Thank you.
anyone else wish to comment?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would. Regarding the comment around the operating deficit, that it was due to not receiving financial grants. While the deficit has changed due to the change to the date for receiving grants, those grants are for the 24-25 financial year. So what we've received there really shows a true figure, more so than when the grants were added in. Now, the grants that we received in 24-25 are actually 3.108 million. So if we receive that money in the normal manner on the 30th of June, remembering it's for work to be done in the next financial year, not in the financial year it's received, it would have put the budget in a very different scenario. We would have shown a surplus. So really, what has happened now is it's brought it back to a little bit of reality in what we're actually showing. And if we also add into the fact, and this is with the other fact, that there's $1.45 million of work that was budgeted for in the 23-24 budget that wasn't done. It giving a more of a true indication of the state, the financial state of the Coorong Council.
So, Councillor, thank you. Yeah, that's basically correct. I'm of the view that I hope the federal government and the state government's grants commission continue to do it this way in the future. I'm sure between you and me as chair, we've debated this many times, this brought forward grant, and it's always made it hard in this business to, I'm looking at our account, that I'm sure if it always came on the 2nd of July, it would probably be far better for us. Management sense and an understanding sense. Anything else though, besides that? He is not. Councillors, anyone else wish to enter debate? We'll close, councillor. So it is, the recommendation is as it reads, councillors. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 3, audit completion report. Recommendation is pretty straightforward. Someone move, please. Councillor Bland and Councillor Roundtree. Any discussion, Councillor Bland and Roundtree?
No, audit committee had a long discussion. I don't believe that there's anything that's too untoward that came out of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just have one question
Yep.
there. Just on page 7 or 69 of the bigger document, the investment income has dropped by 73%. What's that about, the investment income?
Bill, can you just come up to the mic, please? Investment income has dropped
By
down.
70, it says it's dropped by 73%.
Yeah. Just let Bill answer that question.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. It's dropped because we've the cash reserves where we've had in the past or available cash at bank is now limited, and we're drawing on CADs. So because there's no cash in the bank, we're not earning as much interest. There's times that we are earning interest, but it's not to the extent that we previously did.
That makes sense. Thank you. And just one other thing, why do we endorse this one rather than just receive a note? Is it legally we have to endorse it, or should we just be
Well,
receiving?
you have to
a note?
own it at some point.
Through you, Chair. This is the point where we need it endorsed. It's been received a note in previous committees, but now needs to get finalised and head off to the Minister's office.
I think normally that's been the end of this month is when we have to have all this lodged with the Minister.
Correct.
This year we've done actually very well. I thank everyone for that. We'll not be under pressure at the end of this month in terms of getting the process correct, we'd hope. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Because I've got a hard copy here, I can't find a number, but anyway, it's halfway through the Dean Newberry audit report about asset renewal, and it says audit recommendation, this is for matters to be addressed in future financial years. Recommend council engage in external consultants to perform conditional assessments of their assets to ensure they earn the full appropriate replacement costs. And I would have thought we have our own resources internally, Mr Mayor, and is this also a hint that we're not maintaining our schedule for asset renewal, please?
So I'm at the acting CEO, but actually the Director
Thank
of
you.
Roads and Infrastructure to have a go at answering this, councillor.
Through the Mayor, having external consultants undertake condition audits and or valuations has that third-party review. So on staff, we don't have officers that can do that valuation, and so that forms part of what a consultant would provide to us. So it's not, there aren't too many councils where they would undertake condition audits in-house. It's always that third party come in and undertake a review externally.
I just thought I'd ask the question because
No,
it's
no.
raised in the report, Mr Mayor, that's all. Thank
The
you.
important part was there was it's a third party review.
Yeah, yep.
Councillors, any other questions? Anyone speaking to the motion, against the motion? Not.
Closed.
Close. Motion is the recommendation, councillors. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 4, the annual report. Want to move that way or questions? Councillor Roundtree, you're moving. Is there a seconder? Councillor, questions?
I don't have any further questions. We've asked a lot previously on this document.
Too late now.
No, it's not too late. Councillor Peach has got his hand up, so he's trying to have one.
Is there anything substantive changed from the previous draft?
Then, no,
Short answer is no, councillor. Nothing substantive has changed since the previous iterations of trying to get this together. Councillor Quammen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I assume it's in the annual business plan that we have a long-term financial plan. I just thought you've got there's a lot of financial statements in here, but I would have thought we would have our long-term financial plan in there somewhere to indicate which way and how we're travelling in the future.
In the annual report. Miles,
Really?
please.
Is that?
through the chair, and the annual report essentially is a report on the outcomes of the previous financial year against the budget. And that's essentially what it does, and that's why you have a financial statement. Previous financial year. The information that comes out with the draft annual business plan reference the long-term financial.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Councillor Roundtree, is we'll close.
Closed.
So the recommendation is as it reads. Councillors, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 5, budget review 1. The financial year 24-25. Someone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor Roundtree, you're moving. There a seconder? Councillor Bland. Councillors, any questions?
I only had one through you, Mayor, and basically it was similar to what Councillor Peach asked for. Was there anything that had changed in that document during the other times we looked at budget review one?
The answer would be no.
Bill, do you want to add anything? You have to come up again. Between the last time councillor saw it and this time. Finance committee, audit committee's had a look at this, I believe.
Through your chair, there's been no changes since the last committee.
And nothing, councillor, draw your attention. Councillor Peach.
Through you, Mayor, to those on audit and risk, was anything raised by audit and risk when reviewing BR1?
Through the chair, no, I don't recall of anything in particular that was raised. I think we went through in that meeting, we went through the plumbing of the grants. But that really was the only, no criticism of the council in anything.
Can I just ask Bill a couple of questions? The cash flow here, I find it hard to work out because you don't have a starting balance of your cash. You don't have a finishing. You've got ins and outs. You know, you've got 24-25 actual year to date. But how much, the question I really want to find, have you drawn down and how much have you drawn down of the $3.1 million or that the debenture or overdraft fee that's available through the
LGFA.
The Murray.
The LGFA.
MG, yeah.
LGFA, yep. How much are we drawn down that facility, Bill?
Okay, through your chair, to answer, there's part to your question that talks about the opening balance of the cash.
What page are we on?
The statement of cash flows that you were referring to.
Which one?
The statement of cash flow does have the balance. It says cash and cash equivalents at the beginning of the period. And that is the starting point for the cash flow. To answer that question. To answer the second question about the drawing down of the CADs. Can I please confirm at what point? Because the cash movement changes daily. So it depends what time frame and what.
Would it be an end of a quarter would be suitable, councillor Arthur?
Sorry?
When would be the day you would like that?
Yeah, well, if we were going to get these reports,
Yeah.
I'd like to know that. And the other thing
It is an sort of, for want of another term, it's an overdraft figure, so it moves daily.
and for want of other reasons, have we billed or part works of some of these contracts we've done? Because apparently now, you know, you say Carcooma, for example, you're only going to get paid as you do parts of it, some of these grants, instead of getting it all up hand. So I'd also like to know what the cash flow is, you know, if we've got a account out for $1 million and hasn't been paid, you know, when it's expected.
So
I want a true figure of the
yeah,
cash.
so you note in the late agenda item that outlines that proposal around
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Gives us some timeframes and dates. So Bill, have you got any position a date you can stand by in relation to his question?
Yeah, I can go by the first quarter, the end of the first quarter, so the end of September. This is an approximate figure. I have to confirm down the dollars and cents, but it was approximately 900,000 drawn down out of the CADs at the end of September. But we can confirm that. To answer the other question, councillor, about pending works and invoices.
Or work that's been done that hasn't been.
Yeah, so
billed for, so that's it. Yeah.
generally, I know because I've had vision on it, but we've got several invoices now that have come in that are substantial. What I mean by that is in excess of 50,000. Some are 70, some are 200,000. They've recently just come in, and that is for works Carcooma. Looking at capital manager at the back there, and he's just confirmed with a nod. So yeah, Carcooma Road, we're starting to see invoices come in. This would be a guess because there's lots of invoices that come in, but what I've seen for Carcooma, I would stab in the dark, there'll be around $1 million pending. Having said that, we're also expecting tranche of the grant payment to come in shortly.
With the way that's administered now, with your permission, Mr. Mayor, is there a trigger that sets it off that we tell them that we've done a third of the work and this is, you know, this is how much it costs? Or
So I'll just get the CEO, acting CEO to respond to this. He's in that brief.
Project manager has weekly meetings with the contractor, and all invoices before we receive them are verified. Those progress claims are valid. So by the time it comes to finance, it's already gone through several checks to make sure it's valid. The other part that Bill was explaining is in particular with Carcooma, finance and R&I have worked closely together about the cash flow. So we've stepped out how the project's going to roll out, when we're expecting invoices in, when we're expecting grants to come in from a cash flow perspective, so that finance knows that we'll have enough money on hand to pay those bills when they're due. So Bill's gone into a bit of detail. I just want to assure you that we've done a lot of work prior to the project starting to make sure that from a cash flow perspective, we're able to pay those bills as they come in and when grants come in.
Which is why we put that facility in place.
But what you can see from the point of view as a representative of the ratepayers, we don't want to be carrying a lot of debt, but we don't have to because it's paid. So we want a system where, you know, maybe $1 million is most that are out before you get your payment for that before you do the next bit sort of thing. Because it's going to be an extra cost to those projects. When you're borrowing money, that's extra cost.
So councillor, those who make the gold rules, grants, and I think it's outlined in the late item actually of the completion or the partial completion statements. We have put in place that extra facility to counter this, to manage what's the largest capital budget ever this year and led by this project. Obviously, in managing our cash flow in this way, it's harder to pin any figure down any day. I understand that, but that's what the modern treasury management says. Any other questions, councillors? You'll close. So councillors, budget review 1 financial year, there is recommendation as it reads. All those in favour? Those against, it's carried unanimously. Number 6, community grant sponsorship and funding. First of all, councillors, are there any questions around the recommendations, which we'll move actually separately? Any questions at all around that recommendations? Thanks, Bill. There is none. Okay, let's go through the process. Councillor Qualman, you're moving number 1.
Move number 1, thank you, Mr Mayor.
All right, is there a seconder? Councillor Maidman. Any discussion? All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 2, I should have mentioned number 1 is Tailem Bend Community Centre. Number 2 is in relation to the Tailem Bend Netball Club. Can I move that way, please? Councillor Roundtree. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bland, is there any discussion? Put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number slower.
So, I mean, this is second.
Councillor Maiden was the seconder on the first one. Right. Number 3, which is in relation to the Menengi Progress Association. Is there a mover? Councillor Bland and Maidman is who I'm taking. Any discussion? Being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Councillor Peach, you've indicated
For the next 2 items.
2 items, items 4 and 5. Number 4 is to the Tintinara Golf Club. Councillors Roundtree and Maidman are the 2 councillors. Any discussion? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Number 5 is the Keith Shooting Club. Councillor Bland, Councillor Qualman. Any discussion?
Just, Mr Mayor, if I might make a comment,
Mm-hmm.
and that is to, I mean, it says the Keith Shooting Club, but it does sit for the,
Sits in our council area
Our
by a few
council area.
metres.
correct. It's just a little
Which does,
anomaly that sits there, but it is in our land.
in our council area, which somewhat illustrates the size of our council. For people.
Done. Do we get councillor Peach?
No, I haven't taken the vote yet.
Oh,
I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. I believe that deals with the report, councillors. How's that? Looking at the 2 officers, that dealt with it, did it? No, I've got a thumbs up. Councillor Peach, I'll just await his return. Councillors, number 7, memorandum of understanding for the Nurrunjeri Rui empowered communities. There is a recommendation there. Want to move that way, please, or wish to move that way? Councillor Maidman is the mover. Is there a seconder?
I actually had a comment.
You've
about
got a
this
comment,
before I
you don't want to
it,
move
if I
yet?
may, no, I'd actually like to.
Righto, you've got a comment.
Okay. I think we should have had a workshop on this and I adjourned until after the workshop. How do we do that?
Move another motion, just move.
Be referred to a workshop, not by a German. Rather than a German motion.
Vote on it, lose it.
that works.
Yep. The German, which doesn't really still get to where she wanted. Councillor, I think if you wanted to remove a motion that this item be considered by a council workshop would be the way to go.
There has-
And that-
There has also been comment about whether this should be in confidence, given that it's a potential, it's not legally binding, but memorandums of understanding can lead on to legal proceedings.
Be separate to you wanting to consider it in a workshop. So do you want it as, since you got the floor,
Confidential
you
workshop.
want it to be,
A confidential workshop.
you'd like it to be considered, move that to the council consider this item in a confidential workshop.
Exactly.
I agree too.
Thank you for your help. I'm
All
still
right,
trying to get around how to move these motions.
yeah, come up on the screen, councillors.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone's clear. We would be, draft memorandum of understanding would be presented to a confidential council members workshop. In debate, councillor.
I would support that, Mayor. I think I had a lot of questions that are probably best raised in a workshop forum.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just say, Mr Mayor, through you, I agree with councillor Maidment. This should be talked about more before we go entering into something. It's
Okay.
just been chucked on us.
Councillor Bland.
I just have a question in relation to timing to that workshop. Not that I need to be at every meeting, but I potentially won't be at the next briefing or a workshop.
Okay.
Just letting you know for December.
January, would that give everyone a bit more time?
It's not time sensitive.
Not time sensitive, yeah.
Okay, it's not time sensitive, councillors. Okay, any other questions?
Mr Mayor, but just as part of that, part of the discussion is the actual reconciliation plan. And that was presented to council in 2022. The report was only noted, was not accepted. So, and that is still in the minutes, and I got a copy in case they get changed. And that's, I brought that up to the CEO before they were.
Yeah.
It was only noted, we received the report, we did not accept it and commit to the whys and wherefores within it.
Okay. Nonetheless, I've got this motion here now. Is anyone else speaking to the motion or against it? If not, move councillor Mavis. Confidential council members workshop. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. Number 8. Canalpin Community Hub Funding Agreement. Councillor Roundtree, you have a question or you want to move it?
I will move it, but I also have a question as well.
Wait on, just
So-
move it and get a seconder first.
Okay.
Councillors, come on. Councillor Bland is the seconder. Councillor Roundtree.
Thank you, Mayor. When we had the presentation from the hub, they had indicated that the amount that had been paid had been consistent for a number of years. I'm wondering if we can start the CPI from the first year rather than wait for another year. Had that been considered?
Don't know.
I mean, I'm happy to leave it as it is, but I just wonder, we're talking about CPI adjusting it, which I think is the right thing to do. Just, should we not have already done that this starting year?
Councillor, it appears that 10,000 was allocated in this year's budget, the year
Okay.
we're in. So that's the base year in this memorandum of understanding.
No, I'll accept that then. Thank you.
My understanding is I've just been told. You're happy with the recommendation as it reads in 2 parts? Is there Councillor Bland, you're the seconder.
No, I'm happy with,
Happy with it? Councillors, any other discussion? There being none, you'll close the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. 9. Dog and Cat Management Board nomination of representative. 2 options, councillors. You don't want to be on the Dog and Cat Board, we don't, someone that does, probably option 2 might be the one.
Question, and then possibly the motion. I'm assuming that Mr. Vivian is currently,
He didn't want to be nominated last time.
but he is currently the representative though.
Yeah, but this
for
is the
council.
state board.
This is the board, not a representative body, so our inspectors.
What follows my question is there anyone within council working in the area that would, with more knowledge, the average councillor would like to be on the board? Potentially.
$1 million question, councillor.
It's hard to do this without knowing whether there's a staff member who has the expertise from a rural perspective on that.
Yeah.
Staff member could be Michael Webb.
Yep.
And he has expressed that he doesn't wish to nominate.
Okay.
Doesn't, through you, Mr Mayor, doesn't say here it has to be a council member.
No, be anyone.
Somewhere I saw that, all right?
Wasn't it? Okay. I think in the past we haven't had one. We were left it all to Mr. Vivian, but guess it's open to anyone who wants to
That does
nominate.
say.
Nominees
through-
must be currently serving council members
Or
or
employees.
employees, sorry.
My question is, does councillor Arthur want to pick up that role?
No, I'm not interested at all.
Well, I just asked the question, councillor.
Yeah, no, I'm
I
very
love
happy.
dogs and cats, so I'd be the wrong person.
It's not a matter.
See, don't let him go because he'd.
Tip to all the cats.
There
And I'll
could be
rest.
68 people nominated for this. Each council put somebody up. And there's 7 on the board. And most of these positions are normally always, they've got the 5 filled and only need 2 more.
The position to nominate.
I'll move that we just don't
No.
proceed this in that
The report.
Number 2.
nomination.
Number 2's that you'd like, councillor, that you receive a note report.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
For a seconder.
Second that, yep.
Councillor O'Hara. No, is there any further debate? Sorry. So the council's motion will be that council receive and note the report, which is item 2, option 2. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. For 11. 11. Is it stuff?
10.
10. Where'd 10 go? I've missed 10. Drought conditions 2024.
Question.
Sorry, Mr Mayor. The author report's not here, is she? I was just going to answer, like, what's this report going to achieve?
You're going to spend 8,000.
What's this expenditure of money going to achieve? And is it a council function to do this?
Councillors, at the moment, this chief executive officer or the acting has a capacity for up to $500 of, what's the right word? Sponsorship. Given this is likely to go on for 6, 12 months, it was being felt that perhaps it would be better if council endorsed some allocations rather than draw it out of the usual allocation by the CEO. Where that money comes from is perhaps there's a couple other funding pools within local government, but at this stage, would just come from that. We would note that we just completed not spending the entire budget on community grants and sponsorships. It's a worthy question, councillor, about how much should this council support drought initiatives, drought functions, drought whatevers. Given that they come up very quickly, within days, often as a request to me, I hand them on pretty quickly too. I suppose we've got to reflect on 70% of our ratepayers are farmers.
I agree with that, but
in this.
The rest of
And-
businesses.
and
that
so
have fall
it's-
down.
This doesn't change any other process except I think in this respect, we're acknowledging we're putting a small amount of money aside to support community in this really interesting time. Not interest, that's the wrong word, sorry. Challenging. 1, 2. I've got councillor Roundtree first, then Bland, then O'Hara.
So through you, Matt, I would support this. I have seen how the donation of funds to these events has been very well received. It shows council is thinking about these people, and having donated some money to events, I think is not a bad thing to do. It's not a lot. And like you said, we haven't used all that other money. We could possibly take it from there. So it shouldn't actually overall put us in a worse financial position. These events do come up quick, and they're not just limited to farmers. At the one of the ones I had gone to, there was people there that had farming stores. So it wasn't, it's net, the ones that I've seen so far haven't been aimed only at farmers, they've been aimed at communities, and there have been people there that come from businesses in the community who are also struggling due to farmers not having any money to spend. So as long as we keep it as community and not just make it for farmers, because it is a much bigger picture, as Councillor Brown said, it's not just the farmers that are suffering. It's all sorts of things. I actually think being able to throw $500 at a barbecue or an event that brings people together who might not ordinarily go to something is actually a worthwhile thing to do. So I will support this one.
Councillor Bland?
Look, I do support it in principle as well, and I've had conversations in my own area around this, and I know that there is also a letter to council about it. However, I would like to see something added in that council seek grants to support any funding to assist the community. It's not that the community can easily just go out and find grants quickly, nor do they necessarily always have the skills to do that. So asking council to assist in chasing the grants, which would then support any up to the $8,000 or any funding. I personally am not sure how much we've given in the past in the CEOs authorised to sponsor, and what that, off the top of my head, I can't answer that. But it would be interesting to know that how much we did spend just without knowing exactly.
Yeah, through the chair,
Yeah.
we've had 2 for drought support in recent times.
And the figure was up to 500 each.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
last-
and they weren't, neither of them were.
Within the CEO's delegation.
Neither of them at the top of the CEO's delegation.
Delegation last Friday, I think.
That ability
I think
is
we
only.
supported the sausage sizzle and the movies go, Councillor Peach at Tindano.
Yeah, and I think I personally support that. But if we, with drought, there is possibility of other funding, and we could seek some of that funding.
Point
as well.
3 would be, councillor.
Yes, that we continue to seek funding to offset, because I think $8,000 potentially, if this goes over time, will be a drop in the ocean, given that we need to support all members of community and encourage them to attend, because having been through a drought where it affected business, I think Councillor O'Hara may have been in the same boat. In the past, nothing was aimed at community or businesses in particular previously, or very little.
With that third point, I'm going to go to Councillor O'Hara next before I'm going to come back to you. Perhaps there's a mover. Councillor O'Hara.
Yeah, I sort of just back up what Councillor Bland said. I just think an open $8,000 is just a bit too much, I think, coming from the council. I mean, $500 buys about 1,500 sausages. So, I think 1,500, and I don't want to see the council get to the stage where they're buying alcohol or anything like that, So I'm not really in favour of this, I'm afraid.
I'm thinking about the sausage ratio, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, that gets back to my point I made, what is this actually for? Now, I just recently attended a forum held by Ursula, I think it was, on management of stock during the drought, and it was a magnificently presented scenario for a sheep or beef farmer, how much it's going to cost you if you want to keep your stock. And it amazed some of the people there. That was put on and limited to 20 farmers in the first 20, and that was filled in 20 minutes apparently. So they're the sort of things that are more helpful, but that is not council's job to do that. Maybe it's council's job to try and arrange Bursa or some of the other government departments to organise these, say, one in the Peak area, one in the Meningie, one probably not so much at Tail and Bend because it's not so much related, sort of Cowper Tinty way. Otherwise, you know, we're just, as Councillor O'Hara says, we're just going to run, you know, 500 snags each. We're going to run 16 barbecues.
No, I wouldn't put it that way, councillors. This is reinforcing council's position to give some guidance to the Chief Executive Officer around how, when we get the support, or when we get the request, sorry, we get the request that we, given this is a fairly exceptional drought, I can even say the word now. Councillor O'Hara told me that the trough's not empty and the cow's not dead, but
Rained 2 days ago.
yeah, at Meningie maybe. Given the exceptional, as per the two maps on the following page, this is just about community support. This is not about agricultural business management. This is about supporting community, but it's about us acknowledging and endorsing that our Chief Executive Officer's sort of, you may call it generosity or just assistance in this process. Councillor Peach.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to make a comment, and I'll refer the article I put into the Stock Journal around this, around the failure of the Premier to show up. When we're looking at a drought situation, we're looking at people that are struggling. It's the ability of leadership to be in the room, to be present and to say we care that can go a long way to supporting community and mental health. I do agree with some of the comments that this could be abused, but I think the intent of what we're trying to achieve here is that we are saying to our community, we hear you and we're going to support you to come together to look after each other. So I fully endorse the motion. I think the amendment to add future grant funding is commendable and it goes a long way to getting that balance right. But I think it is incumbent on us as the leaders in our local community to say something about this and to do something about it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to stop our questioning in that because we haven't got a mover or a seconder.
I'll move.
I thought I did.
No, Councillor Bland and Rountree for the mover and seconder, please. Sorry, Councillor, sorry, to cut off your head of steam. Councillor Maidman, are you indicating? No?
No, I was just taking my.
So
glasses
councillors,
off.
the motion includes point 3 now from the recommendation.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I could
Yeah, sorry, go on, councillor.
just continue to seek, if I may suggest a variation, continue to seek external funding opportunities.
Use that.
Okay, councillors, perhaps I might have say something.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, may I make another adjustment?
Yep.
Allocate up to 8,000, not allocate 8,000. Because if we seek external funding, then one will offset. Do I be correct? In the
Yeah.
assumption that this is what I'm reading here.
I'd note that it'll simply move into the space where at the moment the CEO has some delegated powers anyway.
I'd like to see that allocate up to.
Councillors, one of the problems at the moment is that the drought is somewhat constrained to basically South Australia and Western Victoria. In the political sense, it is receiving no attention in the national press. That is giving lots of people a lot of distress. It also means that the financiers of this world don't think it's that important either. One of the problems at the moment is getting people to understand when a sub part of Australian agriculture or whatever part of Australia is in a lot of trouble, how they should stand up and be noted, I suppose. Our council this time is fully in both this year's drought, but actually the very tough end of the season last year. That's what I think makes it a bit more acceptable. Most farmers have handled this year, but what they finding difficulties handling is probably the cash flow difficulties that come out of last spring. And every farmer is very different in the way they operate, very different in their background and their cycle of their business. This report here is around us supporting the community as much as a mental health process, but also Also understanding that our council officers need to always be careful in allocating that, but I take Councillor Peach's point in making it publicly, a public statement in effect that we are prepared to support our community in what I think is one of the toughest periods I've seen in my time in this district. One of the troubles with this drought, that word again, is it's actually right across this state. I don't think normally there's parts of this state that are just don't quite get affected, but there's virtually none of this state that's sort of exempt at the moment. Commercially, farmers are making all the decisions they need to make. For example, I help review and do other things around the hay runs and that, and I can read into people's comments and requests that the level of distress people at the moment. Reality is we're in early November. Now will be a harvest for some, poor harvest for most, but that doesn't change. I can tell you my hay crop was 65 bales of hay. Didn't take us too long to round that up. So like everyone, I suppose this amount gives us some ability within the business of council to support the community. That's what I'd say. Is there, I have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Bland is the mover. You want to speak to your motion?
No, I think I've said enough. Thank you.
Councillor Roundtree?
I've made my position clear.
Any other councillors wish to say anything? Councillor Qualman?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. And I thank Councillor Bland for adding on point 3. I feel more comfortable with it now, and but the most important thing is we demonstrated to the community and to the primary industry section of this council, which we endeavoured so much for the amount of revenue we do receive from them, and they pay a lot, and they pay in excess of a lot of big amounts and rates. So even if we can just, it might be just a barbecue, but anything, we've shown the right intent, and we could hopefully leave it to our CEO or some of us to come up with other ideas and options to help comfort and support our farmers in this time of need.
Anyone else? We're in debate. There is none. Councillor Bland can close. Will. Now the recommendation point, or the motion is points 1 and 2 of the recommendation, and the third part is that council continue to seek external funding opportunities to assist drought support events and activities delivered by local organisations. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. We move to number 11, Mallee Highway Intersection Safety Solution. Councillor Peach, you want to move that one?
So moved. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
You. For seconder. No, I'm going to go with Councillor O'Hara, actually. Councillor Peach, you want to speak to it?
Thank you. I thank the staff for bringing this report back to us. I think it perfectly achieved the original motion set out to achieve. A much cheaper option for trying to improve safety and potentially save some lives. I certainly hope in moving this that item number 2 is the one that is actually acted on, that DIT funds it. But noting that item 3 does allow for some provision for funding through existing budget lines, I am more than happy to move and support the motion.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bland, you're the second. You want to speak?
No, I'm not the seconder.
Oh, no, you want to speak? No, you're right. You did right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And that is around point 3. And if I'm reading that right, it doesn't actually say subject to not achieving point 2. If I'm asking the question around the wording, because this says fund any works not undertaken by DIT with regards to safety improvements. It doesn't really say subject to. And therefore, what is the actual figure that we're going to be funding? I've attempted to read the rest of the report and I'm sure it's extremely good. But I just want some clarity around 3 versus 2, or supports one or the other.
3, through the chair. The intent of number 3 was that DIT, we anticipate that DIT will fund some, maybe all, I think we've got an undertaking that they will acknowledge and they will do part of that work. And the intent of part 3 was that anything that they won't do, which will probably be the work that's more on our road.
Yeah,
that we-
so I'm assuming that was the line marking, etc.
Yes.
I'm not sure that 3 actually says that. It says fund any works.
If we change that to outstanding works,
I may be the only one reading it that way. I just leave it open that DIT now can just choose to do whatever it chooses to do and we'll fix the rest. If you handed that to me and I was at DIT, I would think I could keep money in my bucket. Maybe I'm just being a bit harsh on the department.
Through Mr. Mayor, would fund minor works?
Yeah, I'd be happy with some clarification around what works, minor works. It sounds a bit pedantic, but yeah. It was that.
We come up to an answer, anyone?
Put minor works in.
I'm happy to vary the motion to that effect.
To that, righto, that's been amended. And I've got a question. We sort of haven't got to a conclusion around the railway crossing signs and whether we're going to be successful in getting railway crossing no longer in use signs. Because this report's a bit ambiguous around that.
Thought we're just going to cut them off.
Sorry?
Nothing.
through the chair, I'm looking at Travis, but I don't believe we've had any update.
No response. In a meeting with the minister councillors, we asked for, like in many other parts of the state, when the railway line has not been used for a long time, is it 7 or 8 years, councillor now? 8 years?
2015.
15, that we can have railway crossing not in use signs instead of stop signs for the train, which we're very surprised will come again. And we're the only council that's actually abiding by the rules.
Question is, are there not some other areas that have just gone straight over the railway lines?
There is, and we will not mention them by name. But the point is, we're trying to do the right thing, and we've requested that, and we're in the process. But this report sort of half refers to replacing railway crossing signs again. The public will take a very dim view to us spending any money on a railway crossing sign. That the train would be very good to be a chainsaw on front.
Through the chair, I propose that we'll write another letter to the minister.
Following up.
With a gentle reminder for an answer on that particular question.
Thank you. Okay. Where are we? We've got a slight wording change in point 3.
Mr. Mayor, couldn't you make that the fund of minor works as proposed in the, put here in the proposal? Part 1 is worth 4,000, parts 2, 7.5, and part 3, 6, as per the report.
Minor works as per the
And that, you know, like you've come, virtually you're coming here to change a budget item with, you know, like figures that are, you know, hypothetical, but they're probably pretty spot on. Why don't you just make it as per the report, items 1, 2, and 3?
Through the chair, we're not seeking a budget change. Like we can fit
Going to come out of the, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we can fit that within our maintenance line. So really, the report was just to highlight, I guess, the good work that the capital project manager has done we've spoken to DIT and they've been open to actually funding this. They haven't given us an answer at time of writing of the report of how much they're prepared to fund. And so not wanting to delay any further, we felt that we'll keep negotiating with DIT. And if they draw a line in the sand and say we won't fund beyond the 10 metres of the intersection, we will cover the rest within our existing budget line. So we wanted to put the values in there so that members could understand the value of the works that was being done, but we can fit it within our existing lines.
I think the motion covers virtually all eventualities, and I suppose that your work with DIT, Joel, is probably DIT. This is the one junction they actually haven't really changed too much, as they said they would not in this process. So Perhaps they feel a bit obliged, shall we say, around this particular one. Councillor O'Hara is the second. You don't want to speak?
No, that's pretty well covered it.
Yep. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to the motion with that minor change against the recommendation? There being no one, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 12. How do we say that word? Revocation of the annual business plan and budget policy. There's a report there, councillors. Someone, Councillor Peach.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that decision reports 12 through 16 be referred to a council members workshop.
I'd second that.
That's all I'm thinking too.
Decision. Maybe consider one.
Councillor, we're of the view that because they're decision reports, we probably need to move that individually per agenda item.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that decision report 12 be referred to a council members workshop, and I'll foreshadow that I'll do the same for the next few items.
One of the joys of this business is the old business of foreshadowing is not really allowed, but can still be used to give an indication.
Mr Mayor.
It doesn't give you any rights to foreshadow anymore. Used to. The Councillor Peach, your seconder, Councillor Bland, I think, to refer this. The words will be to refer this to a councillor workshop
Within the next 3 months.
within 3 months.
I don't think we can all do it, all of these in one workshop, given other work to be done.
Not in 2 days.
With me, I'm just worried that we're about to enter the Christmas period and the early New Year period, so it might drag it out of that 3-month period.
I'm happy, I don't know, it's up to councillor Peach, but I'm.
And they're not urgent, are they? There's nothing time sensitive in any of these?
Through the chair. We have a backlog of policies, so yes, I understand you want to have a workshop, but I will signal the fact that, you know, in audits, we've been criticised for backlog of policies, and we're doing our best to make sure that we get through those in a timely manner.
Mr Mayor, may I speak to the motion?
Yes. You have I'm looking for the seconder. Councillor Bland's the seconder. Yep. Yep.
Mr Mayor, I think we've got a bit of a structural issue with how we're dealing with policies at the moment. As a chamber, we own the policy, and we're reminded of that when we want to do something that doesn't quite meet the policy. However, I'd note in the policies coming up, there were 18 items of feedback provided, only one of which was adopted, which was a typographical error. And if these are a policy of the chamber, if these are policies that councillors should be having an input into, and that we are expressing a view around how things are done locally, I don't think it's appropriate that our concerns are not being addressed and incorporated into the policies. So that's the primary reason that I wish to push these out to a workshop. I think we need to actually look at these properly and work out some sort of robust way that the nuances and intent that the council elected members would like to bring to these policies are actually adopted.
Yep. Okay. So number 12. There's a motion there in front of you, councillors. We're going to close, councillor.
Close.
With that motion, all those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 13, revocation of arts and cultural policy.
I'll
Foreshadowing, you're moving the same way.
so move again, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Peach, who wants to be the seconder? Councillor Bland. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously.
It's sick and tired of it too. Finish one in.
You're lucky that recording stopped.
I'm just holding the meeting while recording. A fire up again.
A headache. Workshops yesterday. I've got a headache already. We haven't even got to the workshop. Shouldn't be calling anyone they like to call without talking to them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the debate in the chambers. You think of one thing, okay, but when somebody else brings up a good point, you think, okay, that was a good point.
So the trouble is when we all these things, the legislature no longer recording. Can't do anything about it.
I know, but still, it's worth the conversation. We don't have the conversation. Yes, right. I mean, you might be a project subject to more than.
No record.
We're not getting any conversation.
Oh.
We used to think years ago,
Yeah.
but we've still got a whole agenda now.
We did get.
Ashley's going to give a description of the technical issue. Councillors? I think dinner's at 12:30, by the way.
That's how we want to do it.
Councillor Arthur, Ashley's going to explain what's happened.
Through the disk space on that computer has just run out, so it means that the recording has stopped and it won't be saved on that computer for any further. But we are still live streaming, so it's on YouTube as an alternative.
There you go.
They're still in a different form of record, councillors. That's the point of the matter. Number 14, volunteer policy review. Councillor Roundtree, you're moving. Same.
Second at the same.
So moved.
You're moving. No, you're too late. Councillor.
Sean, same reason.
Same reason. Any discussion? Being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Who seconded?
Councillor Peach was a seconder because you beat him to it.
Yeah, I meant to do it the other way around.
Number 13, new policy, public surveillance policy. All those in, same process again. If someone want to move that way, Councillor Bland and Peach and that one. Exactly the same words. How we going, Kim?
I should have known this yesterday. I wouldn't have had to read so much.
It's a lot to read.
There was a lot to read.
And absorb.
So I need a mover and a seconder if the same words are used. Oh, there. New policy, public surveillance. Why have I got councillors Bland and Peach written in my book?
I've got that too.
You're right.
I've never understood.
Are we missing one?
No, just working through it because we're doing a repetitive process. Well, I've got councillor Bland as the mover of item 15 and councillor Peach as the seconder.
That is correct.
Want to spread it around a bit, councillor.
Don't mind either way.
Yes, Peach.
We're over time, folks. 2 hours is up.
Councillors, there's a motion there in relation to item 15. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Item 16, councillor Peach and Roundtree, you're doing the same.
Yes.
You're referring that to a workshop.
Can I also just say on that one in particular, Councillor Maidment's comment that she made in the feedback, I didn't feel was adequately answered. So, and I think this is why we need to have this workshop. So one of the things she asked was that if a volunteer was expected regardless of whether or not a volunteer was asked or expected to undertake works, let's suppose they did come up with an exceptionally good watering plan and the response from the administration is that they don't know and would have to spend money on getting legal advice. And I just thought that really, to me, just showed that we haven't considered this properly and there are a lot of questions and it wasn't a good enough answer to move a policy on it. So I think this is sort of what Councillor Peach is saying. I reckon we've all got a lot more questions and we need to nut these through before we go putting policies in place.
Okay. I'm on 16. It is as it reads. Councillors in front of you, just deferring to a workshop. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 17, Delegations Review Disability Inclusion Regulations 2019. There's a substantive recommendation, councillors. This will be a statutory process, will it? Councillor Roundtree?
Way, but I'd just like someone to explain it in layman's terms. If someone could just tell us exactly what that means. I mean, I've read it, but.
Let me get a seconder. Councillor Land is the seconder. Who would like to explain in layman's terms?
I ask.
Ben, come to the mic, please.
You, Mayor, that's one's very easy to answer. It's almost a case of cart before the horse. Can you see that row that's highlighted yellow? Prepare a report on the operation of a plan. It's basically a case of legislation catching up with what councils already do. So we already do it. All councils in the state already do it, and they're just saying you've got to do it. So we've had to write a report for one. As nice as that.
Thank you.
That's all right.
I thought that's what it was, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of words there.
Yep. No, spot on. Yep.
Any other questions to Ben while he's here?
We'll enjoy the workshop.
There's none. Councillors Roundtree and Councillor Bland, you wish to speak to you, sir, the second.
No, I'm happy.
Any other councillor around this subject for 17? There is none. You'll close the recommendation as it reads in the agenda, councillors. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. You, Ben. Number 18, Finance Committee minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of November. Councillor Peach, you told me. Sorry. Any questions? Being none. Closed, councillor.
Closed.
Motion. Over. Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 19, Audit and Risk Committee minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of November 24. Someone wish to move that way? Councillor Peach. Your seconder. Nice to have a seconder.
I'm happy to second.
Yes, you can, yes. Peach, you wish to speak to it at all?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note that the motion currently reads that we receive these minutes, and I'm happy to support it on that basis, but I do have a concern with the outcome of the meeting regarding surplus land strategy equity reserve, item 11. I'm quite curious, and I have had some discussions before the meeting around this, but I'm quite curious that the committee found that did not endorse the intention, and I see that from a couple of different points of view. One is that, as I understand it, our ability to establish this reserve is within our power to do. So I'm curious as to why the committee didn't look at the structure of the reserve, but rather decided not to endorse it as a whole. And through you, Mayor, I'd like to hear some feedback on this, because I look forward to pursuing this going forward, and I find it curious that this has occurred.
Mr. Mayor, can
Yeah, you just hang on. I'm just thinking this through. So we received the minutes, so the committee hasn't endorsed their own minutes yet. It's the first point.
Yes, and sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to move this motion because we're receiving the minutes, we're not endorsing them. But as I said further, that I have this.
Yep, just to get a seconder on this before. Councillor Bland, sorry, I'm written on different paper. Thank you. Miles, do you want to give a broad response around the committee's view on this?
Possible
Please.
committees, yeah.
Through the chair. Now, I mean, it's not the first time that we've raised the issue of a reserve with the Audit and Risk Committee, and the last time we did that was for the Coorong Katiara Flat Reserve, and that was established.
and also motor vehicles.
But at that time, the recommendation was that we develop a equity reserve policy, and that's what we did. And I the policy, especially where it says under exceptional circumstances. But the crux of it is that it shouldn't be cash backed. And that really is the sticking point. The Audit and Risk Committee, that according to the Treasury Management Policy, you should not. I believe there is, and I've spoken with our finance manager since, I believe there's another way that we can achieve the not a reserve, but we'll have the same outcomes, which is essentially to do an allocation. So that council clearly can allocate a certain amount of money to growth strategy activities, and that doesn't necessarily have to be cash back, but it's tracked. So well, I'd like to probably another workshop. I'd like to probably take that through council in a workshop style. I think we can achieve this. This is not time sensitive. Remember that we said that we would establish it upon sale of property. So I believe there's another way to achieve the outcomes council desires, but also achieve them in a way that is consistent with the Treasury Management Policy and will meet the requirements.
Councillors, I probably would be prepared to take a second motion after this first one around investigating further options around this subject. It'd be fair to say that the independent members of the committee were strongly of the view that didn't like there was cash backed. One of it, so the cash was set aside, which went directly against what they felt was Treasury management.
Mr. Mayor, just I was going to bring exactly the same thing up. They virtually inferred that, like we're going to put the money in a plastic bag in the back of the safe. It's not going to go into the coffers. It's no different than any other reserve fund. It will be no different than your long service leave. We use that money in running the business. We don't have $1 million sitting there doing nothing. So what is the difference? I cannot work out their reckoning, and that's what they said. You should be using it to reduce your overdrafts and all that sort of thing, reducing borrowings.
I was to paraphrase, this is my view, that the decision to sell land and the decision to use that money to effectively developing a 2-3 separate decisions, and therefore should come back for future consideration and not be squirreled away, for want of a better word, or perhaps another land decision. That would be my reading of the chamber. And I stand back, looking at the two councillors on the board, on that committee. That was I would say that 3 independent members were quite strong on that position.
Yes, we definitely got a little tick off in that, and rightly so probably. However, there was also concern around who, in relation to existing ratepayers versus future ratepayers and who carries the debt, etc. That was one side of it. And definitely the Treasury report got highlighted frequently, and we were told pretty much to wear the hat we're meant to be on the audit committee for, or I should say I did, which was fair enough. It was true as well. But sitting on council and seeing both sides makes it a little bit harder. I can see the problem, and we do need another solution if we're going to go down that track, because that one won't wash.
Councillor Coleman, you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As in point 11 there, the last paragraph, it says it should also manage its finances with a holistic approach as per council treasury's management. And that's the point that they seem to be making, our presiding member and other members on the committee. We shouldn't, as you said, screw it away, but it's got to be a whole incomplete, like money involved with the rest of the treasurer, and didn't like to have an individual. That's why, that's where their concerns and the public perception, I suppose. Yeah.
I think, thank you. I think that's fine, that treasury management process, but it doesn't really take into account the very large land area we've got, and how sometimes a land sale is somewhat, could be available for a different thing in a similar location. I thought that was my sort of take home from this motion. Councillor Peach.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to vary the motion if I may suggest further to point 3. Explore further options to achieve the outcome of the council motion regarding the surplus land strategic equity reserve. Explore further outcomes to achieve. Explore further options, to achieve the outcome asked for in council's motion regarding the surplus land strategy equity reserve.
Mr Mayor, may I just make a comment there? One of the things that two people said, was the impost or whatever, or the effect it could have on ratepayers now and in the future. Everything council does has got impact on ratepayers in the future, whether it's an asset. This building for here example, is an encumbrance which is still going to be paid for about another 10 years. So I cannot understand their thinking in that stage. And the other thing is, we've got another reserve called the Green Fund. What is it called? The Green $33,000 or something for, that developers pay in when they don't provide a green space. That's still in a reserve fund. Why haven't we used that?
Hang on, we'll just deal with the so-called green fund. Miles,
Yeah.
I don't think that's a cashback reserve, is it?
Yeah.
In fact, I believe we should close it because it's an old reserve statement.
Yeah. And just as far as I'm aware, this building's end of debt payment will be in 2029.
Yeah.
It goes to the problem of when we do establish reserves, and councillors, long time ago, the previous mini council sold part of Malley Street, the Shell Roadhouse, we remember. That sat for a long time with it. Eventually council just decided to spend it, if I remember correctly, on Dixon Reserve. I remember councillors. So I think our intention is good, given noting our geography, but we just need to probably, and this achieves that. Pete, you've added to your motion. Councillors, we've perhaps moved to some form of debate, if that happy with what you see in front of you on the screen. The additional point. Any Further debate, comment? Okay. You'll close.
Mr. Mayor, in closing, I'd just like to discussion we've had today. One of the things that struck me in terms of the objection of audit and risk to this is perhaps the inflexibility of local government. And I've raised it when the local government finance have an offset ability on their loan facility. Perfect example of why one would have a cashback reserve, actively offset debt. There's a solution to this to achieve both outcomes, but exploring further.
Certainly.
Closed.
Okay, councillors, you've got a three-part motion now. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 20, can I open full Caravan Park Committee minutes of their meeting? Someone move that way, please. Councillor Roundtree.
They want to move it, but we need to either add some more into it or move another motion after it. So I just want to work out what the best way to do that is.
Let's receive the minutes first, I'd say. A second to Councillor O'Hara. Any question around that at all?
Well,
No.
should I ask my question?
No, as long as there's no question around veracity of the minutes, there's not.
Well, this is to do with the minutes.
What's the issue?
The issue is that they moved office bearers, were nominated by the Canalpin Swimming Pool Committee. And I think they need to be ratified by council. So I just whether that needs to be part of that motion or a separate motion. Because they've basically said in their minutes that here are our group of people we've nominated for ratification by council. So how do we then go back to them and say council has agreed to with it?
Has to be read.
Ash.
Through the Mayor, we did discuss this with exec. As we're still going through the terms of reference process, generally you would appoint those, council would appoint the members, and we just want to try and pull those two things together. So when terms of reference are dated, we'll also do the appointments of the members as well at the same time. So we're not disputing any of the positions.
So do we need, because they believe that they need to get it ratified by council, do we need to just go back to them? Have they been informed that we don't need to ratify their decision, that it's just, it is what it is?
You may not
Miss-
always agree.
Mr. Mayor, I think we do need to ratify, and it's quite simple to amend to say that we ratify as presented in the minutes. We did last year.
In the present incarnation of the terms of reference, Ash, is there a problem with this?
Which version? There's so many versions.
One that applies now.
Yeah, just put it in. That's what I thought. Just ratify the appointments and add it into the agenda.
Council would need to appoint, not just ratify, they would need to appoint each member. So you would need to
Individually.
Can you not
Why?
just do the recommendation, appoint as per the recommendation
Can't we appoint the committee as per the recommendation?
in the minutes?
Otherwise it gets
Is it
really
X?
ridiculous. It would be all done. Shouldn't be that hard.
I'm sure we dealt with this in a similar way last year.
All we need to do is add wait to
Yeah.
ratify the appointment of.
And that's what I had. That the office bearer is
By
nominated
accepting
at
those
the
minutes,
dated
we're
16
accepting those
7 ratified by
nominations.
council.
The councillors, we've become of, by accepting the minutes of number item 20 is where there's election of officers, is that right?
Yes.
That we're accepting those positions in relation to our section 41.
What does the minutes?
Is that what we're saying, Ashley?
No, that's not what's going up there. So council appoint officers to the committee positions as
Per item 5,
recommended by the committee. Yeah, that'll do.
audio.
Yeah, but I get what you're trying to say there. Yeah. Yeah, Okay.
Right, councillors, can you all see that on the screen? The point two is that council appoint officers to the committee positions as recommended by the committee. In point six, I think that's why I would read that. Is it, am I reading the right page? I think I am. Okay, councillors, any further debate? I've got to move it a second. There's none, you'll close. Motion, all those in favour, those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 21 is the general committee meeting of the same date by the look of it. You're a mover and seconder there, councillors Roundtree and Bowman. Thanks.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, as been discussed previously, the committee have got a draft terms of reference, but they've been asking about when we're going to provide them with the proper terms of reference. And this has been going on for a while. We had a Section 41 workshop on our list of things we had to get done. I think we all turned up to that workshop last time expecting we'd go through the policies line by line and have a say on them. Turned out what we did have was a presentation by a lawyer about how Section 41s work, and it didn't really progress us in our need to develop. So we're still no closer to getting these people and these committees their terms of reference documents. We now need it back on the action list of things to do, that we have a workshop to go through these terms of reference documents so that we can actually put this to bed, because it has been going on for years and we need to fix it.
So does council determines the terms of reference or the committee, or in conjunction? Council does.
Mr. Mayor, the terms of reference say that in consultation
Yeah.
with the committee.
Through the chair.
Yeah, but the strictest point of the Section 41, sorry, Miles.
Okay. The next step is to take draft terms of references and meet with the committees and get their feedback. That's the next step. So what I can do is with Ben, I can have a timeline, action and timeline sent out to elected members, so you know when that's going to happen. We wanted essentially to time that with scheduled committee meetings. As you know, it's definitely understood that we need to get on with that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions around this? That's the case, you'll close. We're in item 21, as I understand it, the agenda. I'm going to put the motion, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 22, Murraylands and Riverland Local Government Association minutes, the meeting held on the 7th of November. I move that by councillor Qualman. Your seconder. Councillor O'Hara, thank you. Any questions? Being none, you'll close, councillor. Put that motion, which is the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. We go to the late item, I believe. Has everyone got that in a form, or was it put it as a paper form or only on? Paper copies, everyone, how are we going with that? Everyone's seen it? It was a late item distributed last night. This is in effect authorising myself and the CEO to affix the seal due to a way the funding is progressed through the state directly from the federal government. Question?
Just had one question, and it's not relevant to the motion, but in terms of the funding coming from our side, the 500K from council's unsealed renewal program, I just wondered why it's coming from that. It's not an unsealed renewal. I think we raised this when we were going through BR1 in the Finance Committee meeting. Just wondered why it's in that line item.
Yeah, come up, Joel, you'll give it.
Through the chair. So yes, the view is that we are renewing the existing pavements there. That is there to an extent. Currently it's an unsealed road. And so, you know, the determination is that we're renewing the pavement of the unsealed road prior to sealing it.
So through your chair, does that mean that some of the fund allocation is to a new asset and some is to renewing an existing? In terms of how we're...
In terms of when we process.
I understand that we are essentially upgrading a road, but it's a new asset, isn't it? In terms of how that...
Yeah.
Through the chair, so when we go to capitalise, it gets capitalised like that project. It gets componentised down to seal and pavement and the different costs associated. So we segregate it out on a road, on its road segment. It's broken down into formation cost, pavement cost, seal cost, and so the seal cost would be, associated with the upgrade. I guess you could probably attribute some of the pavement cost to upgrade because we've had to change the geometry to meet the design guidelines. So, we attribute our contribution from an unsealed perspective on the basis that, we are renewing some of that pavement, and then whatever grant funding we've paired our unsealed renewal money with funds the upgrade component. And so generally speaking, SLRP, our component's been for 30%. Across that Karkuma project, which I think is probably the right balance between, renewing what's there and upgrading.
Thank you. I think it's more a question around accountancy than, yeah, I know what you're saying. It's,
well,
otherwise you have to make a different allocation.
It's taking away from a pool of money that is otherwise allocated to maintaining our unsealed road network and allocating it towards a sealed road. So that's where I was curious to get an understanding of how we were structuring that.
Complicated by the fact we're not taking a sealed road and rebuilding it, we're taking an unsealed road. And that comes to the issue of should we be doing new assets? And is this really a new asset or an upgrade of a previous asset? We hit this constant debating point, I think, in long times.
Through the chair, it could almost be it's in the eyes of the beholder in some respects. You could ask 10 different people and get 10 different views as to how it should be accounted. We could reasonably also say that, well, we're also putting to bed 13 k's of unsealed road. So that is an indication that we are doing quite a bit of work on an unsealed road too. So
okay. Thank you. Someone going to move the motion? I was just being told. I thought lunch was 12:30, but it's not. Councillor Quammen, you moving the motion?
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You're a seconder. Councillor Roundtree. Want to speak, Councillor Quammen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just glad we got to this point, and it's on for getting the big job done at Karkuma.
This is very good. Anyone else? There's no one else. You'll debate, you'll close, and I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, it's carried unanimously. Eleven one, Office of the Chief Executive Officer's Information Report. We receive and note the report. I want to move that first, last, whatever. Councillor Qualman again. The seconder. Councillor Peach, I'll take questions at this stage. Councillor Roundtree.
Number 6, externally funded projects. Is there any further information about help, and is that still on track to start in early 25?
Are you happy to go? Sure.
Through the chair, we've just got to execute the funding deed, which is in Bridget's inbox as a DocuSign task. And then once that's done, well, we can put the construction of that out to the market tender.
So what timeline does it look like for starting?
Through the chair, I'd suggest probably not going to see any out of March by the time we get through a tender and then navigate availability. In any case, the funding through the grant, I think, has got a deadline of June 2027. So we don't really have any grant tight timeframes at this point in time.
Timeframe?
Yeah.
Right, though, is it?
No, and through the chair, we got the grant early too. We were initially told that it might not be until next financial year, and then so we've got plenty of time.
Yeah. Just got to execute the funding agreement and then we're away.
Thank you.
Other questions in the report? Bland.
Yes, Mr. Page 91, Meningie Cemetery. Lovely photos. And I'm being facetious. That both Councillor O'Hara and I had a quick drive past again this morning. I went the other day because I'd had formally a complaint about it. And when you look at the areas, the corridors, basically between the graves, the rows, area around it, in the past that was traditionally sprayed in a timely fashion, so that we didn't have what now looks like dead grass all through the basically the rock scoria. It's there, the white. Sorry, I'm not going to say it's rock because it's not. So if that is what we call a fabulous job, we should be encouraging volunteers to learn how to spray again, because we've given up that, and I know that it's an OH&S risk, that they shouldn't be doing it, but unless our staff are going to do it in a timely fashion, we haven't had lots of rain. That's been the excuse in the past. I believe that a number of our areas now look like this. I think Councillor O'Hara would probably support that. In fact, I have an appointment with Josh, with our manager on Monday, to go and have a look at some of these areas. The volunteers spoke to us. We had, of course, a Memorial Day, like everyone, and they went to raise the flag. They had to ask for the edges to be trimmed around the flagpole, which had weeds standing, 2 foot high. And then they were just left laying on the ground to reseed. So something's gone wrong in our management of some of these systems. We have 3 people in our region.
So was it ever sprayed?
Yes, it was always sprayed.
No, this year.
Well, I suspect because it's all dead, but then we haven't had a lot of rain either.
I only raise that as a reason because I've had a lot of spray failure this year due to the drought.
That is correct, through the chair. Complex staff have sprayed that, and due to resistance with certain weed species there, we've had to engage contractors to come down, and sourcing them in a timely manner has proven difficult. We have got them on board now to come in and use suitable chemical.
So
being mindful of rose gardens and sensitive areas in that cemetery.
So my question is, what's acceptable? Are we not able to train our own staff with the new weeds management system? Do we need further equipment to do it properly? I suspect when I go into Wadmore House on Monday, I'm going to have the same problem because it's the same reason that was given in the past that they don't spray Wadmore House anymore. Probably a fire hazard by now. So my question is, what is the management program if we have resistance, and are we going to look at equipment? Because this used to be a pristine cemetery and it's still talking about being managed by volunteers, but they are unhappy.
All I can say further to that is further consultation with the contractors to get in with suitable chemical timely manner.
So is our staff not able to be trained in the use of this chemical?
Unfortunately, they are unable to use chemicals suitable.
It can't be trained.
But isn't there chemical handling training that everybody can do?
Chemicals need to be approved through council's WHS policy. So yeah, there's
But weed
limitations on what chemicals can be used by council staff.
Has that always been there?
I thought council rep spraying weeds
Yeah.
only 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They have
That's
resistant
understood
weeds
it.
now.
The point would be that certain herbicides
Not
need
weeds.
need a different level of approval.
No,
Mr
it's
Mayor,
not
can,
more than that.
Hang on, I'm just letting this, you are a spray operator now, yes?
I'm happy for this to be taken on notice, but can we please have an understanding of what chemicals are currently endorsed for use under the WHS program and what steps can be taken to ensure that our own staff can undertake spraying operations?
We can probably use that internally.
Mr Mayor, wouldn't that be an operational?
It's an operational issue, yes, I
Not
appreciate
really
it.
our forte. It's
Yeah,
up to
I know.
All
the
due
staff to do that.
all due respect, Mr Mayor, it may be operational, but if it fails, it's our issue when a community
Yep,
member.
no,
We
no,
can ask why it's failed, but we cannot, we're
I have
not here to
asked.
direct what they use.
Why?
That's an operation. Oh, okay.
We can
We
still
run the
ask.
show, do we?
Oh, well, we can still ask the
Yeah.
question.
Didn't direct, I asked a question.
So-
The question is,
so
how do we get over?
I think the point would be that certain herbicides we can do, certain, shall we say, stronger herbicides, we probably can't do. All I could say, as I said at the start, is that this year's been a particularly testy year for spraying anything.
This is not.
And I've got to deal with one tomorrow, a full failure of quite a strong herbicide due to the season. So I take on board what you're saying, councillor Bland.
With all due respect, this is
Yeah.
not a new problem. I've left it
Yeah.
go for some time.
Yeah. So the challenge there is what weed group are we taking with which herbicide?
Yeah, and through the chair, we can provide the
we can
list
provide that
of
back.
what's on our current chemical list we're allowed to use and detail the process for if there is a chemical we want to include on there,
Thank you.
the steps we need to go through.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if I can, I mean, you touched on a subject of mine, and I can't understand why we don't get a report here. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the men that are doing the work around all our towns, they should have a list of things they have to do weekly, monthly, 6 monthly, whatever. And any quality assurance, they'll have to tick that off as they do it. Weekly, monthly, 6 monthly. Now, I can't understand why we can't see a copy of that quality assurance ticked off, what those blokes do around our towns, monthly or quarterly or whatever.
So there'll be a report fairly soon around
Yeah,
our workplace organisation in this area.
through the chair, that's the crux of the Field Force 4 report and work they're doing is to develop an annual plan. So, and something that administration can actually administer, monitor and check off against as well as provide more valuable information to council.
Well, that's good, but I probably could have done it for you for a lot less than them.
Question then.
Yours would have been a lot less, would have been zero. But
Will we see the field force report and have it explained to us?
Yes, yep. There's the intention is to come back to council with a briefing in February.
Thank you, Josh.
I'm still in questions around the CEO's report. Councillor Peach.
I just have a couple of questions regarding the questions that were taken on notice regarding the depreciation figure for the Salt Creek facility. The ongoing operational cost, has any further work been done around that? I know that we did receive an email with a rather extravagant figure and a comment that perhaps that could be reduced by less frequent cleaning, but I just wondered, is there any further update on that?
Through the chair, we've reached out to DIT to see, have an understanding of what their cleaning regimes are along their toilets in similar locations and similar, and see what their standards are. We will also look to come back to, or internally we will discuss about whether we want to implement a more pared back cleaning regime and what sort of signage that we could potentially put up to let the public know.
And further to that, Mr. Mayor, and I may have missed it in my reading of the previous report, but I struggled to find any detail in that report as to the distance from the Salt Creek Township of the new proposed site for this facility. Happy for that to be taken on notice, but I just wondered if there was any understanding of what we're actually now talking in terms of how far that is from the township.
Oh, unless you know, Travis, I'll have to take it on notice. No, so I'm sorry, I'll have to take that on
The
notice.
technical drawings were quite interesting in their lack of detail around that.
Exactly what
I thought, but it's, yeah.
I thought it was in the town. I thought we were going to have it close to where the town was.
Between Salt Creek.
It was moved.
And if I may, just on the questions taken on notice, the question from Councillor O'Hara regarding erosion, how effective is that remedy going to be in
Around the beach we're talking.
adequately preventing future erosion?
I might look to the acting director for.
That's through the chair. That area is just being monitored at this point in time. The remediation work is the low sections in to the rear of the lawn. It's just top dressed to try and stop water holding in the low sections behind on the top level. Actually on the lake edge.
Any other questions, councillors? We'll close, councillor Qualman. You have to close. So we receive another report, councillors. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 2, corporate and community information report. Questions? Councillor Roundtree.
What's a psychosocial hazard? It's in the hazard report under work health and safety, and they talk about training for psychosocial hazards.
To the chair, bullying
Okay.
would be one. Any sort of harassment that would result in poor mental health. People overworking.
So there's no, it's called, so bullying and harassment training now is just called psychosocial.
It would be part of the suite of, I mean, you can refer to it as mental health training.
Mental health training, okay.
Other questions? There is none. One move, please. Councillor Roundtree is the mover. Is there a seconder? Councillor Peach. Any further discussion? Being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Is against? That's carried unanimously. Number 3, 11.3 is R&I, roads and infrastructure. Questions? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of weeks ago, I put a CRM in about the condition of J Park South Road in need of grading. We got an update of how that's progressing, please.
We take that one on notice. Thank you, councillor.
Mr. O'Hara.
Just, how is the Mallalong Road progressing? 15th November, it's supposed to be finished, are we?
Through the chair,
complete.
Please.
By May, I have a phone call from one of the landowners out there on Saturday
only one.
morning. Woke me up. There's more than one. There's more than one. Complimenting council on the job. Be quite blunt, it was a very effusive congratulatory call. So we could convey that to the gang, everyone involved, please. Extremely pleased. It wasn't the one you thought, Councillor O'Hara. But he's very pleased too.
Sure he is.
Any other questions in the R&I, please? Yes, again.
Yeah, I've got one more. Signage maintenance on Mount Sandy Road. What's wrong with the sign on there? Down there yesterday, it looked all right to me. Maybe it's new on there.
No, councillor. I actually drove it a couple of weeks ago. I'd never been in it. There you go. Councillor Peach.
Just two things. One is the mowing with the new mower behind the tractor. It's doing an outstanding job, the flail mower. Road edges out our way and has been leaving a really good surface. I know it's in the report mowing the airstrip, but it is a bit narrow, but other than that, it seems to be doing a good job. And the other question I had regarding mowers again, in the procurement section right at the end, RFQ completed for front deck mower renewal and new mower to be ordered. Two questions. RFQ means what exactly? And are we talking about deck replacement or a completely new lawnmower?
Through the chair, RFQ is request for quote.
Right.
And second question, it's a renewal of the entire mower. Front deck mower just depicts the type of mower.
Right. And the reason for renewal over repair?
Mower as its entirety has reached the end of its life. Maintenance costs were becoming quite high with it. So the renewal is, so the current mower is a Kubota. The new mower will be a Kubota. We are actually able to interchange the air conditioned cab from the existing mower to the new mower, which saved us about $15,000 over the competitive prices that we got. So new mower, existing cab that was still in good condition, but I guess the existing running gear and deck on the existing mower was causing quite a maintenance cost. And I mean, it's not just maintenance costs, it's downtime, not being able to mow and things like that. So it compounds.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think probably need a new mower because our boys don't get off the mowers down home. Even if there's something there, they go around it, they don't get off and pick it up. In fact, one of them was mowing the lawn that I mowed yesterday in front of my place, about 7 this morning. So,
wake you up, councillor?
probably need a new mower.
It'll wake you up.
No, it didn't wake me up.
Oh, I just thought you'd never know your luck.
Bit of claim that, I suppose.
Obviously with a bit of that little late rain, it has spurned on a group of ugly weeds, no doubt about it. But I would note and thank Councillor Peach that the new mower behind the tractor is actually doing an exceptionally good job for a mower in that scenario, I think. It's sort of mulching it all up and slashing it pretty evenly, I reckon. But unfortunately, we haven't grown much grass this year. Anyone else with questions? Councillor Bland.
Well, it's got a couple of parts to it. Firstly, to say thank you to council for in front of the post office and also the new guttering on the southern side of Princess Highway going south. That is working at the moment. I get to watch that frequently. However, I would also like to ask the question in relation to a small section which is near the telephone box in front of the post office. And that staff there have asked me what's being done about that. There still seems to be basically.
Is there a photo here of that, Councillor?
Yes, it doesn't actually show it clearly though. The witch's cap hats on it, and also we do have some dirt areas both on Matson Street and then going slightly north, which has been certainly a bonus to the project. And then again, where the guttering is on the side of the footpath as you go further south onto the new guttering area, how will that be remediated and with what? Are we putting lawn in there or grass in there to have a green space? What is happening with that?
Good questions. Hang on, one at a time. We got the
Come to all the first 100 metres.
I'll
So
refer to
throw
Joel.
it out.
So
Joel.
just try and step back to the first one, telephone box.
Around the telephone box.
I think there's some unfinished work there.
Yes, and the post office were wondering what's happening in relation to that. I
I'll-
couldn't answer the question.
I'll follow that up with the contractor. As far as I understand, there's still just unfinished
And
work.
there's a section on Matson Street and then the section that I'm very thankful that we took down so people can get out of their cars and actually walk off the highway.
Yep.
There, do we know what we're going to do with that section?
It'll just remain as unsealed. That was a maintenance item to deliver as just an additional.
Yep, I realise.
That will need to be, if we to seal that or pave it or whatever, that'll need to be considered as a future footpath expansion
Needs to go
project.
in then because it will need it. And I think
Yeah.
Yep.
it looks good. It will work. It's just, we can't do anything about a footpath along that side of the road on that section because the amount of utilities sitting in the middle of the footpath there from Telstra, etc.
Mm.
So it is a solution, but it is just dirt at the moment. And
So
we'll
the
need-
question might be, councillor, is in it when we leave a bit of bare dirt, this was what we got there. Do we ever have a go at sowing it with something, spreading some
That was my-
seeds? Where does that sort of sit before some mongrel
we'd
weed
actually have
takes
to water
over?
it.
Yeah, through the chair, that is the answer to the question. I mean, we can sow seeds, we can roll out turf. It's all extra costs. It's all things that need constant watering, not just every day, probably multiple times a day at this time of year. And for the outcome, I mean, again, in the eyes of the beholder, the footpath surface itself, it's had compacted rubble put down where it was excavated. So, to seal it again, either bitumen or paving, that.
As well, okay.
Yeah.
It's all
Through you,
red
Mr.
to
Mayor, are
me.
you talking about the little bit on the end, the little bit of dirt on the end?
I'm
On
talking,
Mason Street?
no, I'm talking about going south, the piece that has been taken out so people can get out of their cars, which I'm very thankful for. However, I don't think that is compacted roll, is it? On that embankment?
Or not on the embankment, no, that's just sand. Again, if we're to put lawn there,
And
you can't really mow it, it's an embankment.
I get that. I'm just asking what was going to go there in the long term. And then when you go, we've now just done a gutter.
Yep.
On the other side, and is that going to, I mean, this is the highway into town, so is that going to be a green space? Are we going to plant it? Are we
So
going to-
two parts, so there's two segments to that curb. One segment is most definitely just rubble behind the existing, and we'll just do like for like. The top section near the hospital, a little bit more green foliage there. We may look to just put loam there. In terms of, greening it up, it's probably not within the project scope. The project scope was to just replace the curb, like for like. If we're to start greening up space, well, that's a whole nother consideration, in the respect that if we go and plant lawn there, well, that's obviously something we're not mowing or maintaining or watering. We can put lawn there, but there's no irrigation.
And I
So
think-
are you talking about streetscaping, plantings, or?
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be a major job, but we could look at some plantings there because it's still on a slope going down to that gutter.
Yep.
Which means it's still going to be washouts with some of that, unless you're either going to bitumen next to the concrete or do something. Anyway, we can wait for that. to be
Councillor, I suggest we actually raise it in roads and infrastructure. This
It
is,
won't be there, so you'll have to-
oh, well, perhaps someone else can remember, please. I suppose the question is around pieces of land that we don't pave in streetscape. Do we do anything apart from leave them as a piece of dirt and hope some grass grows on them? That's probably where the nub of it is, those scenarios. And given that's a bit of an unusual circumstance there with that embankment, I think that's just a question for some other time.
Well, it's going to blow dirt and I live next.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the case. Yeah. Any other questions? There being none, could someone move, we receive that report, please? Councillors Maidment and O'Hara. Any other discussions? All those in favour? Watching you, councillor Clare.
Sorry?
I didn't see your hand go up. That's
You want
why.
me to not vote?
I know, I want you to vote one way or the other, but I'm going to declare it carried unanimously. Ashley, lunch arrived. I'm going to, since we've had 3 hours, we've got half an hour for lunch and then we've got 2 o'clock workshop. Is that
No, it's 1:30.
1:30 workshop?
One, it'll be 1:30.
So the workshop will be deferred and that's all right to defer it a bit? No.
People coming in.
2 o'clock.
We can eat and work.
The workshop has to be when?
People are coming.
Yeah.
We can have them late.
No.
I'd like to probably start it by 2 o'clock.
Right, councillors, you've got 20 minutes to have your lunch. And I'll have a discussion around leading the council meeting after one of the workshops. Well, just adjourning for lunch to 1:20, please.
I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Ready, councillors? We're up and going, Ashley.
Are we
Thank
going
you,
back
everyone.
to
We resume at 1:24.
At this stage, I probably could, but.
Councillor Arthur, we're in questions with notice. There's a group. You've got anything particular to really add to it? Ask that we can move along because I think we had an attempt at answering them all.
Well, can I just ask a
Yep.
simple question? I find the answer to the first one very strange. We've only used $3,000 worth of rubble on patching. Also, one of the part of the question was we actually had a rubble bank we were working on before. We would raise, 20, 30,000 tonne of rubble, and then as it was used, it was allocated out to the road it was used on. Obviously, that's gone by the wayside, is it? Or was that hidden somewhere else?
Don't know.
Yeah, when you say hidden, what you mean?
Well, like I can't
Another
find,
category.
this rubble raising materials for 3,000 for the year.
Yep.
Be taken on notice, councillor,
Yeah, fair enough. That's all right.
because you're asking about what will be stock on hand, I'd suggest. Next one.
Yeah. Once again, reasons given is coding is not correct. Virtually what's saying. Same answer was given 12 months ago. Surely we've got the new system up and going properly now that we do get things coded correctly.
Yeah,
If not, why not?
Through the chair and the finance manager's not here, but
He's coming.
He's coming.
we went over to new set of chart of accounts and GL codes, and my understanding is that there's still been some recoding, but now they're comfortable with how things are being coded, and this will be a more true reflection of what our actual costs will be across those job lines. That's my understanding. It's taken a couple of years to iron out all the bugs, but we're at a point now where these types of changes shouldn't happen in the future.
Yep. Okay. Hopefully, the electricity you've got here an increase of 23% from a $284 to $398,000 is 39% increase. One of them I just asked. Well, I was just all the electricity accounts bundled into one, and then they are allocated. So you've got down here CWMS, for example. CWMS is a separate scheme which has to be kept separate. So these are then allocated out. Is that what happens, Will?
Yeah, what happens with CWS is all of the costs have to be ring fenced. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a separate set of accounts. What it means is that within your accounts, you track that cost. It's for swim, income and expenditure. And electricity has increased. It's not 40%. We worked out, what was it, 23% or something?
Well, it's actually 39%. From 284,000 to 398,000 is 39% increase. And, that is a very big increase. Seasonal fluctuation, operational changes, the treatment plants, increased loading through our township. What does that mean?
More people using the facility, putting more in the facility.
Yeah, but hang on, that's part of your wastewater, isn't it? Treatment.
Yeah, but you're talking about electricity here.
So
I think you can't. What you're saying is the cost of electricity shouldn't be that much. I think you'd echo.
exactly, yeah.
Well, I think you're echoing all Australians. That's what I think you're echoing.
Well, I'm just saying, has everything been allocated to the right spot? We talk about these items. If you got an electricity bill that went up 40%, you'd ask questions. So would everybody else here. And that's what I'm doing. The other one, the next one, the subscriptions, donations and contributions, well, that hasn't been asked. I asked for an itemised account of the expenditure and why the large increase. And the answer was 50,000 for library services, community grants, by the budget process to reduce the deficit position in 2023 and local growth. That is not an answer to my question.
Councillor, as you were advised, it was not possible to give a fulsome answer. Staff available. we can continue to work with some of these in the future.
Well,
And just on the others, anything else?
yeah, I'm just amazed at the valuations of the buildings that the council have.
As in too high, too
$28
low,
million worth.
too high, too low? What part of amazing are you in?
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to have a look at them.
When
Yeah.
they,
And the other thing was, the last one was a waste pickup service. I'll take that answer as it'll be coming, because that was one of the things that we are doing a review into it. So I was just trying to find out what we are and how we're actually charging the extra bins was the main thing. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to take that as done. Councillor Roundtree, your question?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, before we go on, I'd like to follow up Councillor Arthur's question regarding electricity supply.
Yeah.
The Councillor Arthur's correct, it's a 40% increase year to year, taking into account that the street lighting was 23%. The overall increase on everything else was in excess of 40%. Did we have a increase in electricity? When was that contract up for renewal? I wasn't entirely satisfied with that answer either. I was keen to understand, is this a base cost of generation, or is this a...
There has been an increase in electricity costs per se, but also you're very correct. The bulk electricity purchase contract was came into effect during that financial year. And as you'll be aware, when that's normally a 4-year contract. And when you enter into it at a set market rate. So 4 years ago, we all know electricity prices are quite different, and negotiating contracts 12 months ago, totally different environment. And yes, the costs have increased. Those contract costs have increased. I mean, really structurally, the way to address electricity costs is the same way most people do: solar on their properties and batteries. I mean, we really want to tackle the financial impost of electricity costs. We need to keep looking at renewable energy.
Can I please add to that, Mayor? I agree mostly with what the director is saying, except I, as a person who invested heavily in solar and batteries, just don't think our batteries are up to where they need to be to give us what we need. They're costing a lot of money, and they're just not.
Are you referring to your own batteries or council?
I'm referring to my own batteries. I think the whole solar reliance at the moment, and even talking to some solar people at a conference a couple of weeks ago, they actually agreed with myself and Harrison on this, is that certainly for a lot of places, and maybe it's different on this building, but for a lot of places, the batteries that they're offering are just not up to the capabilities that they need to be in order to do the job they're supposed to do. So it's like the idea is there, and it's a great idea, but the technology is not keeping up with where we need to be. So we need to be very careful before spending any sort of big dollars on batteries, and what their usefulness is, because I think the technology will just get better over the next 10 years, but at the moment it's falling short.
Certainly. Okay. I'm finished with Councillor Arthur's questions. I am cognizant of the time we've got people at 2 o'clock for a workshop. Sorry, councillors, if you think I'm pushing along, I probably am. We can always adjourn till after these workshops today for the final part, if you need to. Councillor Roundtree, you've got a question which has been answered.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for the response. I don't think my question was adequately answered. There was quite an emphasis put on explaining to me that the Canalpin pool is not a rehab pool, and I am not for 1 minute suggesting that the pool become a hydrotherapy facility. However, the pool used to be able to maintain its temperature and a comfortable temperature, and people could swim. And that isn't the case today. So I probably shouldn't have been as prescriptive or mentioned that in my question, because what I would have liked is that the response explained more about the protocols that are followed for the pool blankets and what that looks like, because there is some issues and they do need to be fixed. And it is perhaps the blankets aren't up to scratch anymore and aren't doing their job. And there was a comment about maybe we need to look at replacing those solar blankets. But I felt that the response was quite brutal and focused on one particular area, which I think clearly wasn't the crux of what my question was. It was just mentioned in there as, you know, where it could go. I'm not saying it needs to be a hydrotherapy pool. So I was a bit disappointed, and it still really hasn't outlined what the procedure is for managing the pool blankets.
The challenge, yeah, there's probably another workshop around that, around the requirements between chlorine levels and heating of pools and mornings and nights.
We used to be able to do it before. I think that was the problem.
Well,
We managed
it's
it
claimed
before.
we used to better.
There wasn't as many complaints.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit different.
Anyway, I was not
Okay,
entirely
I'm
happy with
taking
that.
the answer to 12.2. Questions without notice. Questions without notice, councillor? Taken, there is none.
Mr Mayor, there's just one quick question. The LGA has got out an input from council on pest birds. Hope that our council is going to attack that with vigour and putting a report in, particularly our little white fellas seem to come around and do a little bit of damage to the gum trees and that sort of thing. So it has just been opened by the LGA. So I hope that we're going to be partaking in that survey and giving our thoughts.
Is this a survey by the LGA of councils around?
Asking councils to
whether we
submit
support further action on bird control.
pest birds. It was.
Well, we
Yeah.
can add,
Last week from the LGA, it's around potentially developing, I think, a baiting program of some sort. So they're just asking for input from councils at this stage.
Yeah.
If the LGA is funding it,
Yeah.
we'll do it. Righto.
Mr Mayor, I have one question, which I should put with notice for next meeting. The Telstra Tower at Colbatch, has there been any further development on that?
I asked last week when I heard it at CFS group meeting. To say frustration would be a starting word, but anyway, gosh.
Through the chair, yeah, the mayor conveyed some frustrations to me. I've reached out to the team from Telstra that we've been in contact with. I haven't had a response yet, and Tracy's on leave this week, so but I'll ask again and then I'll circulate once I've got an answer. Yeah, that last report was they're still waiting for Sapin to come and turn everything on, and they keep changing their opinions on. So,
The council was raised, as you know, we've had 3G turned off, and as usual, country areas, the service diminishes. Despite them telling it'll be better. But most offensive, I think, was the fact that now there's very little phone service at all between the Coorong and Tintinara. I don't know whether someone assumed the Colbatch Tower was on when it wasn't. But it just goes to what we're up against all the time around who wants to care.
do we know the actual area, Mr Mayor, on that? For you?
Well, it's allegedly now bigger than it ever was, because perhaps when the change from 3G to 4G, the range has dropped off on other towers.
Yeah.
That's basically what's happened.
I'm more concerned about accident issues.
Well, we are too, but they won't respond. They're the phone company.
Well, Sapin really are responsible.
Well, I'm over the blame game between those two.
But from an accident point of view, who's
Yeah,
responsible?
I know.
27th of November is the next appointment that's been scheduled for Sapin and Telstra to attend to turn on the site. So all things going well, it'll happen on the 27th, but when I hear back to my latest email regarding the switching off of 3G and for an update, I'll circulate to members.
It's basically a black spot,
Yes.
essentially. Won't say it's a black spot, brown spot.
Well, it's just very frustrating because I feel like I'm not part of this game. They're just handballing around and be quite blunt, don't care.
Well, we do have ministers.
Which is a bit of a problem. Number 13.1. Sorry, questions without notice. Sorry, councillor Peach, you didn't have one, did you? No. 13.1. Councillor Roundtree, you're going to move the motion as it reads, are you?
Yes.
You're a seconder. Heard the motion in 13.1, please. Councillor Peach is the seconder. Councillor Roundtree, you speak to it, please.
Yeah, the pool is a vital community asset, promoting health, fitness and social connection. The updated operator's manual and supervision plan, while well-intentioned, creates challenges for morning swim sessions by mandating 2 people to be on site, putting these sessions at risk of discontinuation. This motion calls for council to explore practical, cost-effective solutions that ensure the pool remains accessible to the community without compromising safety. And while safety is paramount, this motion seeks to find reasonable alternatives that meet supervision requirements without excessive resource demands. Exploring alternate options such as utilising local personnel already present or leveraging technology ensures safety without significant financial strain. And I hope my fellow councillors will support this motion. And council affirms its dedication to serving the community needs while upholding safety standards.
I have a question.
Mm.
And that is, if that motion read explore alternative options and took out for providing a second person, then I think it would be clearer with what you just said, versus finding the second person.
So it says explore alternate options, providing a second person. So just take out the word second person.
Or providing second, not being a volunteer, and then just go providing alternative options to assist the on-duty lifeguard. And that basically says the same thing without actually saying then we have salaries and wages to look at. And another.
I'm happy with that.
Is that okay?
Just letting it be reworked. Councillor Peach is happy though.
Definitely. I think it reflects what.
Yeah, it does. Which is, I mean, there are different options, but we just need to find something.
Find the right option.
Find the right option.
I'm okay with that.
As part of that investigation, because we actually also have the numbers, our staff to record the numbers that actually go
We get
to
that.
these and the cost
We get that.
and the cost to council at the present moment.
But the current costs,
Yes.
I don't think you want to know.
Yeah, do we want to just make it clear that we don't want it to include asking the volunteers to do more though? Because that was probably the crux of where the committee felt they were going to have an issue with. They don't want to be asked to provide another person in the mornings because they just don't think they could find the people to do it. So that was really why this motion's come up, is because we want to explore alternate options that don't require volunteers.
You could put back in not being a volunteer.
Yeah, maybe just put the words not being volunteers so that it's very clear that we want you to find something else, because they're struggling to find volunteers to fill the day. And if they need to find another person for the morning, it was just causing them.
Okay.
To keep numbers, do they?
Yeah, so the numbers of who come in to the pool are kept through because they have to pay. So you have the daily swim or the people that buy the tickets, the passes, and they're getting a lot of people coming in daily from the caravan park that swim, and some stay on for longer in the caravan park because the pool is open. And so they're seeing probably a good percentage of who's coming through the door actually coming in from the caravan park. And they expect that to get bigger over summer when people realise there's a beautiful facility there. They generally stick around a bit longer.
Okay. Anything else? You've sort of closed, councillor.
Closed, yeah.
I think you sort of, I think everyone's got the gist of what it is. Motion is, as it is on the screen, alternative options, not being volunteers to assist with on-duty lifeguards at the Naupham pool during the morning swim sessions through the season. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Arthur voted against it, so still carried. Right. Motions without notice, councillors. Taken, there's none. Minute action list, please. Councillor Peach.
Just through the Mayor, if we could have an update on the engagement with the RAA regarding the EV charging station in Tintinara. noting that the target completion date is now out to March 25.
Yeah, so through the chair, so we've had discussions with RAA about and presented the information back to them based on the council's decision regarding the preferred site. They haven't said no straight away, so they've gone back to start doing some investigations into the site that's been recommended. I've also spoken to the Department of Energy and Mining, the program director for the charging program, and they've been given an extension. Well, effectively, the current program we closed out. This particular project will be finished when it's finished. So there's no critical deadline to have that. Yeah. So we're waiting on feedback from Sappin. I believe that we're looking at having a site meeting with them shortly to work through some of the technical aspects of the location and infrastructure. And then, and in the meantime, RAA are also reviewing their costings. I'll probably use this opportunity to say that RAA and Department of Energy and Mining have indicated that there's next to no funding left in the stream, and so they're anticipating that if there are any wild variations due to the change in location, they may come to council asking if we're willing to contribute. Once we know where they stand, we will come back to council with an update.
Councillor Roundtree.
Thank you, Mayor. 17624, Country Health Connect. I'm just wondering what other advocacy options have been discussed. And I really want to see a solid plan of how the council intends to help residents of Tintinara and Canal. Like, I want to see a bit of a strategy outlined of these are the things we're going to do, because I worry that when it's just sitting there in a minute actionless and we write a letter, we forget about it. But there are people living with this every day.
Yeah, can I
yes, Councillor Peach.
potentially assist with that? So the community liaison group is currently putting out a questionnaire to the residents of Tintinara and Canalpin, which will be going out today or tomorrow, I believe. Yep. So, and council is assisting with the printing of that document. Yep. And assisting with that. So part of this is around conversations with Nick McBride in terms of data collection. And there's been letters signed by people that have had rejected service and so forth that we're collating as a group, trying to bring that all together. So this next step is to go out to community to say, we really want your concerns around this lack of service and how you see it. That'll be available for drop-off points in both Canalpin and Tintinara that the committee will then collate. The council is assisting in that process.
The councillor, after discussions with Nick McBride, that was the felt we need to have some pretty hard evidence. So our role as council in this is effectively just doing the printing, and then the committee will collate that, and we'll see if there's, where the lines there of what people are really saying. So it hasn't been dropped off the perch, but it'll be ready for early next year. I suggest we'll be ready to roll. And it was felt that if people had a piece of paper, they could probably follow along and fill it in more likely than just writing a letter, which apparently is a bit old hat now. I just, go back to EV charging stations. The one thing I've noticed in the first 2 or 3 months is how many people with trailers using the EV charging stations. And so I don't know where we're at with the design of the Tintinara one, but it might be prudent to have one that's drive past instead of them pulling across. I've watched them, they pull across in the front of the 3 or 4 bays.
Interesting.
I don't know how much horsepower they need,
that.
these things, but that's my visual notation of what it's worth. Councillor Peach.
If I could just go back to the item that Councillor Roundtree raised. We sent the letter asking for the full comprehensive responses to be provided back. Can I take it that we haven't received that response?
Through the mayor, we have, and I think I was supposed to circulate that, and I haven't done that yet. So it's in similar line to what we have already been provided from them, though. So
We're not going to be any happier after reading it.
But In the minute action list, councillors. Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 018/24, Wellington East Water Supply Community Engagement Findings. I know we've progressed some way through it. We've had the first stage community engagement way back in, I believe, was February. Since then, I just had a couple of inquiries of late, local residents over there just wondering where we're at, because I can see the next part is in January, but is there anything we can reassure people that we're heading down the right track, or we got some news for them, or?
We're heading down the right track, councillor.
Yes.
So,
The director will give you the rest of the answer.
Thank you.
So only a week ago, we had a we had a catch up with SA Water to see how everything was progressing, and we were informed that there hasn't been too much progress. And so we're asking for a please explain and an update, which we will be receiving shortly, and then coming back to council with a bit of an update with revised plan. So we were under the impression that we were working towards this January deadline, and they've sort of given us indication that that might not be possible now. So we want a bit more information before we come back to council with the next steps.
Okay. Councillor, we're not happy, but
Yes.
apart from that, I'll be less delicate.
Yep. Thank you. Just so I know how to make some sort of reply.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
well, unfortunately, we're in their hands.
Yes.
But if I be fair to say, across the state, there is a definite issue of housing, new housing block release versus provision of water.
Yep.
And it's become quite a thing amongst any mayor's grouping that's just becoming the limitation in the state. So we'll be attempting to push our particular issue with Minister's Office ASA. I'm a bit sick of it. Be quite honest. Anyway, go on. Questions on the minute action list, please.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, 05024, 10th Street Precinct Surplus Land Disposal. Where is that? Has that gone out to tender, or are we still waiting for funding applications, or what?
Waiting a grant that would be announced in the near future, I think is the short answer. So that's where we're at.
So it hasn't gone out for tender, subject to us receiving some sort of grant.
It doesn't go anywhere until we know if we've got the grant.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yep.
Councillors, I'm going to propose, but it's only a few minutes short of 2 o'clock, and we have got consultants here, that you would adjourn the meeting until, is there a time we need, Ash, or just until the completion of them? At least the first workshop? How long do we need?
Thanks online. So, equal one. Okay, 3 to 3:30, and we will bring in for 3:30. Building some flexibility.
3:45. Yeah, councillor, I know it's a long day, but it was going to be a long day, so can I have someone move that we adjourn the meeting till 3:45? What is only left, as best I can see, is the confidential parts of the agenda, but given the consultants are both coming in this set timepiece, we really should address that as fast as possible. I'll move that way, please. Councillor Qualman, that to adjourn this meeting until 3:45. Your seconder, Councillor Roundtree. Any discussion?
Mr Mayor, we didn't have anything further to do.
Or
go into confidence.
Go into confidence, that's correct.
So,
we still need to adjourn this meeting until, so we can deal with these ones. Any debate? There is no debate around a formal motion. So we adjourn till after the 2 workshops. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried. It's carried. Kim, you're going to have to write a bit.
I took one look at this agenda the other day and I said, this is going to be way, way too big. Consequently, it is.
Telephone book.
Yeah,
Big
there was
bucks, what you
6
say,
bits
big.
we didn't go through.
Councillors Arthur, Peach, O'Hara voted against it.
With the tourist.
Hang on, just hang on, give me a minute.
Only
give me a
because
minute
we've
to
got
take this- to
people
take
waiting
this
at
down.
our back.
And Councillors
Only because we've
Roundtree,
got people waiting.
Bowman, Maidment, Bland voted
Okay.
for it, so it's carried. I'm not going to say too much normally, but I do point out the weakness of starting early and having things later.
Well, it's actually, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, but can I make a comment to that?
Mhm.
Is that we don't normally have this sort of briefing on a day. Past briefing days were set for 1 day a month, which was a full day. And we've now doing 1.5 days a month.
We're going to be doing a bit more by the look of it.
Then it's not necessarily a good idea to have visitors coming late into the afternoon.
Could I make a comment on that, Your Worship? In this case, exceptional circumstances
Fair enough.
had to try to tie into the Murray Mallee Regional Plan drafting, which is being fast-tracked by the state government because of the housing crisis.
A comment?
And also the other workshop relates to Meningie Motel, which I
Needs to be
I
expedited.
had to have because we have to now present in parallel the opportunity to potentially grant a permit. So I would have definitely chosen a different date, but exceptional circumstances.
Fair comment.
Right. We are adjourned at the moment.